That was a day of love.
Hey, brother, we're boots on the ground here. We're moving on the Capitol now.
Multiple capital entry. Multiple capital entry.
That was a day of love.
Hey, brother! Still taking metal, sharpened objects, missiles.
That was a day of love. That was a day of love.
America or Trump.
And here we are, the day of love. The day of love is definitely upon us. And here we are as we come to you live, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, on the Brother Charles Johnson YouTube channel. We're going to talk politics. Today we have an all-star lineup ready for you. We are talking about fascism on the move, brothers and sisters. And here we are. And how did we get here? There's some of what we can talk about. How are we here again with this particular president? But I have here with us right now, we're going to have a few more guests come on later. And if you hear something that you disagree with and you want to get in on the action, I can definitely supply the link to you so that you can cam up and present what you want to present as well. I have here with me Brother Gary Indiana Jones in the building. I have the legendary Sister E, needs no introduction in these internet and YouTube streets. And I have, of course, Brother J Mac. You already know how Brother J Mac and I get down, bringing you the cutting edge thoughts on politics. And we also talk about issues of faith as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started here with the conversation. There's a lot going on with this new administration that's not so new. It almost reminds me of the famous song by The Who, Don't Get Fooled Again. And the last line, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And so here we are now with the new boss, same as the old boss. And as he utilizes executive orders to do a lot of changes, as he has rebrandished a government agency, renamed it, and installed the richest man in the world to run it and to oversee government agencies. A lot of problems with that. We're having an organic conversation tonight about what's going on, how did we get here, and how do we process through this? How do we move through this? So we love to begin just in a rotation with Brother Gary Indiana Jones. Just introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself and your feelings about what's going on. And we'll transition to Sister E, and then finally Brother J Mac, and then we'll just proceed organically. Go ahead, Brother Gary.
All right, thank you, Brother Charles. Gary Indiana Jones, that is my social media name. Thank you for having me here. My background is I work in security. Um, I design and sell alarms, fire alarms, things of that nature, and offer security to any facility 10,000 square feet or larger. I have a close relationship with Jay Mack. We've known each other for years on social media, and we gel very well together and have a lot of deep conversations. And he invited me just to bring my thoughts, my perception based on some things that he's seen me post. So thanks for having me.
Indeed, and thank you for those for that intro, Brother Gary. Sister E.
Hello, good people. Can y'all hear me? Y'all good? Okay. So I am the infamous Sister E. I guess I'm a part of the Israelite and the Christian community. I've been in multiple platforms, been involved in multiple conversations. I have a channel that says Let's Talk with Sister E. I'm a Memphian too as well. I currently now live in Brooklyn, New York. I work in the IT industry, been in the IT industry for oh gosh, 20 years now. Been in church and in ministry my whole life. Been around politicians and politics my entire life, through my mother and other family members who are involved in politics in the city. But ultimately, this is going to be a good conversation. It's going to be a good conversation. I think everybody's at a point where we're beginning to see things transpire, especially with it being his first 100 days, and be able to have some real life conversations. So, but that's it. That's it. I started out with J. Well, I didn't start out with J Mac, but me and J Mac kind of ran in the same circles, and Charles, but on these YouTube and Clubhouse streets. So, all right.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Sister E. Brother J Mac, let's hear from you.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey. So yeah, Sister E and them Clubhouse streets, and Brother Charles on those Clubhouse streets. But hey, we're about to get it on and tell the truth. We're not tolerating any gaslighting. I mean, if Charles put the invitation out, so if you want to come up here and challenge us, you better not come up here gaslighting. You're gonna get embarrassed. We come in Clubhouse Street tonight, so let's get it.
Yes, indeed. And so I just wanted to kick things off, just talking about some of the crazy things that have been going on. Lots of federal employees begin to lose their jobs in the name of DEI and the all-out assault on DEI. Funny thing about that is that our white women have actually found themselves the victims of some of these DEI layoffs. I guess they forgot that they are the main beneficiaries of DEI programs, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And of course, once you find that intersection between mess around and find out, of course, they say it another way, but I'm saying it the Christian way. But they mess around and find out there's an intersection there where they realize, you know what, DEI doesn't just mean like black. And they kind of were under the impression that DEI is black, and they've gotten a rude awakening. And that's just one example of how the president has just allowed the unelected, unappointed, unapproved by the United States Senate, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, to go ahead and run roughshod on government agencies, telling them who to cut, what to do, what not to do, and just kind of running the show. And we did get a leak of the cabinet meeting from a couple days ago, where there was a lot of tension between the Trump cabinet and Elon Musk over this very thing that we're talking about. So anybody can just jump in and share your thoughts about what's happening, the direction that this is going. And I think that most importantly tonight, I don't want to just completely focus on the problems, but I do want to talk solutions and what we should be doing during this time to help or to just get through. So go right ahead.
I guess I can try. Go ahead. You can go ahead. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'll jump in. First and foremost, I respect that everybody has a difference of opinion. We all get our information from different sources. However, what's really difficult for me is when people are not coming with facts. That's where I have a disconnection with folks. When it comes to this DEI issue, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm noticing a pattern in our society today where, for some reason, people are just redefining definitions of things. Such as a very easy example was when Colin Kaepernick protested about police brutality and unfairness to black people. All of a sudden, on the media, all you're hearing is, "Oh, he's disrespecting the military. He's doing this. He's doing that." And that man has many a times said what he was doing and why he was doing it. So now this DEI attack, it, there's a policy being portrayed to the American people that they are lowering standards to hire folks. They are giving jobs to people that are unqualified just for the sake of inclusion. And that is not the case, and that's not what it stands for. And when I look at the whole demographic of what is going on, we've been hearing this since we were children. Whenever there's a problem, follow the money. And this is what they're doing to distract folks, in my opinion, because there's something else to gain that they want. You know, billionaire people cannot relate to what we live through day to day to put food on the table, pay our light bills, and things of that nature. So, I mean, that's just a start of what I feel about that.
And I think the biggest thing when we talk about DEI, and I see it all the time, with a diversity, with a equity and inclusion program, we don't. Charles brought up a great point. We don't see the benefits of it from a melanated community. I've worked in corporate, like I said, corporate America my whole life. None of the framework that was implemented was never implemented to benefit us, but other minorities. You see a lot of people that are impacted now. A lot of these, quite a few of these layoffs are related to those departments. And those departments are heavily saturated that I've seen in my time, mostly with white women. and they're providing their vision. I look at DEI no different than ultimately the feminist movement. They use us as the face, but then receive the benefits from the aftermath, using Black women as the face, and they benefited from it within the feminist movement. The same thing with DEI. DEI was always, it was our face, but we never benefited. That goes even with affirmative action. It goes with all of these programs that they implemented. I'm gonna go even as far as the Civil Rights Bill. We're not benefiting as much as we should. We are the ones that took to the streets to fight for this, but at the end of the day, we never really benefited from it. And I said something a while back, and somebody was a little irritated by me saying it. I'm like, I don't care about these programs being destroyed, because the purpose of it and the vision of it was never truly implemented. Not to say I want to leave everybody else out, but the people that are the face and the spokespeople for these movements are the least to benefit. And when you look at the percentages of the people that benefit from it, we're at the bottom. So destroying these programs really is not going to impact us greatly, because every single one of us walk on these jobs with the experience, but they already looking at us like we don't have the experience. So we're already fighting against. That's ultimately not true, but we're having to perform in a way that our peers don't have to perform. And then another part of these DEI programs, we create these diversity groups within corporate America so that we can have these real conversations. You know, they have the every job I've always been a part of, I'm always on some group with the black enterprise or black empowerment or something. And that's all we do is talk. We bring leadership in and tell them what we feel. Guess what? It goes to deaf ears. So ultimately, I look at these programs like they are a waste of time. So
excellent point right there. And of course, Brother J Mac, feel free to weigh in at this time. And then we have another guest that's preparing to come on as well. So what are your thoughts about what's been said?
Oh yeah, that's a good start. I'm just lining up some videos. I had a bunch of other stuff, but for whatever reason, Facebook Messenger doesn't just automatically allow me to pull my messages up on my computer like it does my phone. So I'm going through some weird stuff, but I got some videos lined up anyway. But yeah, everything's just been said so far. It's spot on. I would say there's a lot of, as you say, Brother Charles, messing around and finding out. That's the Christianese way of saying it. And farmers are finding out. There's a channel that I follow. He's a farmer from my home state. Of course, I moved out of Missouri, but he's called the Back 40. He's very well educated, very well rounded. He's a farmer, but He's been involved in politics. He understands the whole dynamic, and he's just been trying to educate other farmers about them voting against their own best interests. And now a lot of them are, I hate to say this, but they're crying because the guy that they put in office is sticking it to him. But guess what, though? He stuck it to him his first go around. He put a lot of farmers out of business in his first stint. So I don't understand what they thought was going to be different this time, especially when he was saying he was going to do the same stuff. I don't know if people have cognitive dissonance or they don't believe this man when he says he's going to do stuff. One thing about Trump is when he says he's going to do bad stuff, he does it. Now, the good stuff, you can take that with a grain of salt. Okay. But when he says he's going to do bad stuff, he means that. And he's doing the horrible stuff that he said he was going to do. So, I mean, you got the Latinos who didn't know that their family members were going to get deported, and they supported him, and they're all up in arms now. And some of them who are here legally, but they're not citizens, they're being targeted. I mean, it's a whole lot of folk messing around and finding out. And people like me, and but more people on social media who's got big platforms, were warning people. You got some black folk. I mean, we got the Haitians who have been affected. We got other Africans who are targeted. So I guess some Asians are targeted. But one thing that really fries my egg, and I know, brother, I don't want to take Brother Gary's thunder. There are some black celebrities on these YouTube streets who come off as black leaders who were encouraging black people not to vote or to vote for others. And we're gonna call them out tonight because we're mighty quiet about this whole situation now. I'm gonna go ahead and finish getting my videos together, Brother Charles. You go ahead.
Okay, yeah, you're good, brother. And speaking of what you just brought up, isn't it funny how none of the Haitians are continuing to eat the dogs and the cats? Funny how they just kind of disappeared. I wonder what happened. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people who live there. And all of a sudden, there's no more dog and cat eating going on. I wanted to play this little clip, of course, Mr. Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, what he said. And then, Brother Gary, will come right to you and get your comments on this, but I definitely wanted to play this quick.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has.
But so see, he of course perpetrating a thought crime there.
Yes, it is 100% what he believes. It is 100% what he believes. Is he just lying there?
Yeah, you know but that's his thing. Is apply DEI, and it means black, and that's what their thought process is about it. They lumped it in as a part of woke, and then being anti-woke, and they just basically made it into a slur to describe black. When he thinks DEI pilot, he thinks a black pilot. He doesn't think a white female pilot, even though white females are the #1 beneficiaries of DEI programs, as statistics prove. Brother Gary and then Sister E, go ahead and weigh in on that little nugget.
All right. So I'm going to try to remember this is a clean show, and I don't speak the way I want to speak. So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What they were targeting when this was first created, from what I understand, was to be inclusive of people from different races, be inclusive of people no matter what their sex is, and being inclusive of people no matter what their religion is. These talking points, and you know what, you have to kind of absorb what they're saying, because maybe we might be a little naive and don't realize that there's a lot of folks out there that really, really, really think like that. But DEI does not mean what they're talking about, what they're describing at all. I mean, Kamala, her background was arguably the most qualified person to run for office based upon her education, her career, the social services that that she was a part of, and things of that nature. Our current president did not have any background in law, no background in politics and things of that nature. And same thing like with Reagan, but they were able to propel to be in a position that they were in and are in. And all these appointees do not have a background in education or anything of that nature, and they're in the leadership roles that we could never be put in. In fact, the people that jockeyed for him, he didn't even put him. You know, the people of color that jockeyed for him, most of them did not get a position. So it really irks me when I see them talk this way. But you know what? We have to understand and start to accept this is the way a lot of those folks think. It's incorrect and it's wrong. And there is a position within them that they're stubborn and they do not want to accept the truth.
Indeed, Sister E, and then we're gonna bring in our new guest, Mr. Watts.
The interesting thing you said this, Gary, Indiana. I got folks in Gary, Indiana, but on paper, and this is where I will say, and I hope this isn't pushback, but it is somewhat. I think with Kamala, she was never planned to run for presidency. Because her campaign, she wasn't given enough time to one, I think, be groomed and prepared. On paper, she's on point. But what was on paper, she couldn't communicate it clearly to the masses overall. And it kind of pulled everybody back. Even within the Black community, a lot of conversations that was had was, there comes a point that even goes with the Democrats and the Republicans and the independents. Everybody has a seat at the table but us in all parties. And what happens is when we don't have a voice or a seat, we're looking for anybody that says anything good about us for us to run to them. And some questions were had about some of the infrastructure and the things that need to be in place for Black small business owners, overall for as far as the Black community, that she just could not address. And that's where I fault the Democratic Party, because initially it was supposed to be Biden that was running. They were preparing him to run until his debate with Trump, and they saw how ill-equipped he was due to his illness or him getting, up in age, that they made a rush decision to say, we got to have somebody in place. And they put Kamala there because they had other people they were going to get ready to go for, but they backed down and they had to ultimately choose her, because even her own party didn't even 100% trust her. Whereas the Republicans, they already had someone. As crazy as he is, they already was prepared and they was ready to go. And I think that's where the Democratic Party fell short, because we got to be honest, the racism we see in the Republican Party, we see it in the Democratic Party as well. Great example. California is a full blue state. They couldn't even get reparations across the table because they said the governor ultimately was not going to agree. Gavin was not going to agree with it. So the Black Caucus just shut it down altogether. So this is a Democratic, I'm talking about full blue. California is one of the bluest out of everybody. And you're telling me in a blue state, we're going back and forth to talk about reparations for the Black community, and your governor is not going to approve it, and he was not going to ultimately push it forward. It tells you that where I sit, I look at it on both ends of the spectrum. There is racism on both sides, but I think with Kamala, when they think that when we see a Black face, we finna run for it. Black people are tired because some of our own Black politicians are not 100% for it. So we're just trying to figure out where we gonna go, and we got to even look at the numbers of how many Black people went to the polls as well, because it was a lot of Black people that wanted to just sit it out. It's like, I'm done and I'm checked out because nothing benefits us. So, but that's my whole point. So I'm done.
Hey, before
Yeah, well,
Gordon,
feel free to disagree or have a difference
Oh
of
no.
opinion with me, because I accept that. There is not a thing in this world that we can talk about where there's someone that's gonna you're not gonna have someone that has a difference of opinion. But there's a couple of things that I want to touch, and I want to give a chance for us to introduce Gardis. Um, Based upon my opinion and what I researched, from what I understand, in the position that Kamala was in, she was limited about what she could say that would appear to be in the opposition of what Biden was doing because she held that seat. So you don't want to come across, you're part of she's the VP, he's the president, and she comes in and talking about doing some things that are different from what the current administration was, for during the current administration. So you didn't want to get that perception of division within our own party. Um, I think there was a lot being said by her, but I don't think a lot of people were listening because you had social media people out there, you know, saying all these different things. There was misinformation and stuff like that. And a lot of people were focusing on that type of stuff and trying to figure out what was true about her. And her not having the proper time to run, because we expected Biden to run, like you said, but they could not put a different person to run in that seat because you can't commingle funds. Kamala could use the funds that they ran on their ticket to push her forward. If you put someone else in that place, they would have had a limited amount of time to raise money and do certain things, in which she actually did achieve that stuff. You were talking about the polls, they had record breaking turnout for those polls. I encourage a lot of people to look up a documentary called Vigilantes Inc. There's a gentleman by the name of Greg Palast, and he explains, and to sum it up in a nutshell, he uncovered 3.5 million votes that were suppressed from Black people, Asians, and young folks that are in college. And you can look it up and on YouTube, and they showed how you would have people in power literally would challenge votes. Don't know them. But one person alone challenging 30,000 votes. Another person in a position of power, like a governor, challenging 50,000 votes. And this happened all over the country. He is a political. He studies elections. He's been doing it for 20 years in different countries and here. And there's him and other groups that have solved manipulation and voter suppression. And I don't understand why this information is available to us in the public. And there's people out there researching this, and the people in power are not bringing this up.
hey, also real quick, I know Gordon's getting ready to get in. Yeah, she had 100 days basically. And what Gary said is true about the money that was raised by Biden. But I'm of the opinion, and Sister E, I follow her campaign pretty close. She did address small businesses. She addressed, but I mean, she even had meetings with Black business owners. She had, so I know that she did all those things, but like Gary said, there's a lot of misinformation about what she did or didn't do from people who either didn't watch, and I'm not saying you, but there are people when we were talking about the influencers earlier, they either didn't watch or they had agendas, but I would say also, and I'm gonna land on this, I'm of the opinion that it wouldn't have mattered what she said or what she did. She's a Black woman, and America was not going to vote for her. That's just what I'm gonna stand on that.
But
And
you
even
know,
Well, they did.
and even
They
some
did. But Sister E put it out there. We always got to do so much better.
the thing is this: even though she met with them behind the scenes, the Black businesses, and I followed her as well, and I saw some of the engagement she did with them. It was still no clear path, though. I can meet with somebody all day long, and when you say, okay, so how is this going to help us? And I think one interview she mentioned something about how she's not going to create something just for Black people alone. And that just was hitting mainstream media. I mean, hitting it hard. And I actually went and listened to the actual interview, and she wanted to do a holistic approach in how she manages, the whole concept of DEI, like a DEI almost. And when I heard that and when she said that, I said, what happens is everybody gets a bill, Asian bill. You get this bill. We might get a few bills here and there. But truly, when you look at the depth of each bill, how does it benefit us? Again, let's go back to the situation that happened in California, where she was at one time. How is it that they're going back and forth about reparations? And then ultimately, even though some people may not have agreed with it, how is it that it did not make it? You had the Black Caucus who shut it down. When you listen to some of the aftermath of the conversations, they were saying, well, the governor was not in agreement with this. How? So people are looking at that ultimately, huh?
No, I was going to say, I hear you. And I would say that on that, so you got to, I'm not against reparations, but in fairness, Kamala did not run on reparations. So,
I'm not saying it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I ultimately said that when you look at the whole party itself, the Democratic Party itself, it's a good point. But then we got to realize that there is and that's why I said both sides.
Yeah,
not just
Sister.
I'm sorry,
Sister E. Yeah, Sister E's making an excellent point.
Right.
And I want to land that point before I kick it to Brother Gardis, who I'm sure is chomping at the bit to get into this thing. Listen, Sister E, you laid it out, and you laid it out plain. If the Democratic Party is so for reparations for Black people, for the descendants of slavery and Jim Crow, why in the bluest state in the union could it not get across the finish line? And I tell you why. Because they're really not in support of reparations for Black people. See, they're just paying lip service to Black people. And we have to understand and see and read between the lines when somebody is trying to sell us some snake oil, when somebody is trying to hustle us, when somebody's trying to pimp out our vote. They are not true to this at all. They're not. And really, the only way that we're actually going to get any traction on that is if we have leverage on them. That's the only way.
True.
We got to have leverage on these folks. See, they're not going to give up power just because we ask for it. See, nobody's ever given up power by request. Power has to be seized. It has to be taken. It has to be coerced. That's how politics works. It's not like, oh, isn't this the right thing to do and just try to make the case? Look, America wouldn't do reparations for Black people.
Period.
Right after slavery ended. Now, come on now.
Period.
You can talk to anybody about reparations. Anybody. I get into arguments with people about reparations, and I ask them, I say, would you support reparations for slaves that were newly freed in 1865? Would you support reparations in 1865? Most anybody you talk to would say yes. They would support slavery. They would support reparations for slavery in 1865. So why was it not done? When? And then I hand it off to Brother Gardis. When slave owners got reparations.
Yep.
In 1865. They literally got reparations to compensate them for the loss of their slaves. Now, if you can give slave owners reparations after slavery, but you give the slaves nothing, that shows you the default position in America is not to address our injury. Like Brother Malcolm said, and I'm gonna hand it to Brother Gardis. If I stick if you stick a knife in my back 7 inches and pull it out 5, you can call that progress if you want to, but the knife is still in my back. Then Brother Malcolm said, even if you pull the knife all the way out, you still have not addressed the wound that was inflicted, and you have not healed the wound that has been inflicted. But then he said, but America won't even admit that the knife is there. They won't even admit that the wound is there.
And
And that's where we are on that. Brother Gardis, I wanted to let him get in, and Brother J Mac go right after Brother Gardis.
Okay.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Greetings, everybody. Good to see some old faces and some older faces that that I know in this chat. But what is the? I know we were talking about politics, and I hear about Kamala. What is the actual topic that we're discussing?
Yeah, we're addressing this administration, the fascistic tendencies, and how did we get here, and where do we go from here is specifically what we're dealing with, and everything we've been discussing has been surrounding that particular topic.
Okay. Well, obviously, let's start from the failed campaign of Kamala Harris. Obviously, she was put in a position to fail because of the fact that she basically only had 4 months to do a campaign. And to me, that didn't seem like realistic. Matter of fact, she probably did better than I thought she would, because I honestly thought she was going to get slaughtered. But she got a few states. But to ask somebody to run off of 4 months is, typically insane to think that you're going to win, especially when you going up against a guy who has been campaigning since he left office in 2020, or had to be forced out of office in 2020. But Donald Trump had a sizable lead.
He's been campaigning since 2017, brother. He never stopped campaigning.
Oh, well, I mean, he was president at that time, so he didn't have to campaign. But what I'm saying is that even when he left office, he was basically still campaigning. But the problem with the system, and I think people have this misconception that the system is broke. The system works the way it's supposed to be working, from my perspective. I think our job is to break the system. Is to basically break the system, because when you look at the Democrats and Republicans now, I'm not going to exactly say that they're the same, because they're basically not. I mean, when you have siblings, yeah, you basically come from the same parents or one parent or whatever, but you're not the same as your brother or your sister. However, that's the way I kind of treat the two parties, or I call it the duopoly. They work differently, they operate differently, but they agree on certain points. And there's 5 points that I have come up with that Democrats and Republicans agree on. For one, they agree on foreign policy, and their foreign policy, both parties' foreign policy is imperialist. They want to take over the world in any way, fashion, or form. I think the second thing that Democrats and Republicans agree on is no social upliftment for Black folks. The concepts of the topic of reparations came up. Democrats act like they want to care about it, but they do nothing for it. Republicans, obviously, they don't even want to have a conversation about it. So neither party is for reparations. The third point that I feel that they agree upon is no economic plan for the poor. They, in a capitalist nation, they need the poor. They need the poor. They need the homeless to feed much of the upper class, and this is the thing that they agree upon. And I think too, another thing that they agree upon is a capitalist system. You see works of getting rid of Social Security. Many Republicans think that's socialism, and several other plans that help poor and working class people. And I think the last thing that they agree upon is a police state. I think they're, and this touches upon the fascist way that Republicans are going about it. They're staunch police state people, but the Democrats are as well. They just do it a little different. So I think if we want to see something different, I think our job is to break the system. And how do we break the system? I don't have the answer to it, but I think one of the efforts that we probably need to do is to break the two-party system. And the only way that the system can be broke is through a popular third party, which I know that sounds utopian. That sounds, kind of like pie in the sky type of thing. But I think if we work at it, and if a group of people work at it in a sense where it could become a movement, then I don't think that's like unrealistic. Obviously, a third party is not going to grow overnight. That's not, that's unrealistic. But the problem is that when many people run as independents, or they run as a third party, and they lose an election, they somehow just quit and go into the background. Or what they do is they try to run for president or run for high offices and not focus on local offices where they can actually build from that. And so for me, I think if a third party is to gain traction in this country, they have to have some sort of successes, whether it be in the lower houses of Congress or in the local elections, or in big cities like Chicago. I kind of felt like in 2015 when 2019 when Lori Lightfoot won, I felt like anybody could have won that race, and I was kind of shocked the third party didn't throw their hat in the race, because I think a lot of people here is being frustrated by the Democrats. Even though we believe that the Democrats are on our side, and so it's something to think about, because there's a lot of work to be put behind this. However, how many of us are willing to do that work?
Can I just say, Brother Gardis, I have one of your comments on the screen. The system is working as it's supposed to. We must break the system. Just real quick, how do we break the system? And I want to, as you think about that, I want to juxtapose your quote with a Martin Luther King quote, which I think is very similar to what you said. I don't know if you're familiar with this Dr. King quote or not, but Dr. King said this: we are saying that something is wrong with capitalism. There must be a better distribution of wealth, and maybe America must move toward a democratic socialism. Now, I'm juxtaposing your quote, the system is working as it's supposed to, we must break the system, with a Dr. King quote, we are saying something is wrong with capitalism. There must be a better distribution of wealth, and maybe America must move toward a democratic socialism. Brother Gardis, how do we break this system? And is there something wrong with capitalism? And I want to hear your honest thoughts now. Don't sugarcoat it for us. Lay it out there plain.
Yes, I am very, very familiar with that quote, and I wholeheartedly agree with Dr. King on that. I think I mentioned this before, that politically there has to be a rise of another party that is outside of the scope of the Democrats and Republicans, or the duopoly. So that's basically step one to breaking the system. There has to be an independent party from the corporate party of the Democrats and Republicans, because we've seen it too long. We've seen this problem played for a long time. I mean, obviously the Republicans are not even, like the Democrats would like to hide that, they're puppeteers for the corporate elites. Well, the Republicans don't even hide it anymore. Like, obviously you see from this administration, Donald Trump has appointed everybody except two people who are billionaires, and the two people he appointed that are not billionaires are millionaires. So this is, we're actually seeing the corporate elites stepping up front, doing the job. They don't need politicians anymore. They're already in positions. So we need basically a third party. And as far as what's wrong with is something wrong with capitalism? Yes, it is. I think there's a lot wrong with capitalism because of the fact that capitalism, in my perspective, and I've been observing for as long as I paid attention to politics, it does not cater to the majority of the working class and poor people. When you have a country like the United States, who is supposed to be the richest country in the world, and you have homeless people, and then you got people who can't afford to be in homes, who actually work. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's in San Francisco, where there's a homeless encampment of people who live in their cars, even though these people are professionals. I mean, these are people that work in the IT sector and certain people. They can't afford homes because homes in San Francisco is going up to like $1 million and more. And these are not like 3-level homes with 7 bathrooms and 8 bedrooms. These are regular homes where if you buy a home here in the Chicagoland area, and not to say the Chicagoland area is cheap, you're going to get it for about $300,000. So capitalism to me doesn't seem to be working for people like me and people who make less than me. And this is like I said, I'm talking from a standpoint where I'm a person who makes enough to pay his bills, take care of his family. But yet again, I'm basically one of those people also who is a paycheck away from having a financial crisis. So yeah, I see a lot wrong with capitalism right now.
So many layers to that, brother.
Indeed.
So many layers.
Those folks. Let's get Brother J Mac back in, and then let's go to Sister E, and then Brother Gary. Let's go in reverse PTR order, as we would say on Clubhouse.
All right. I'm not going to club. I'm just joking.
So I'm gonna make a couple of quick points, and if I can play one of my videos, this would be a good time for one of my videos. Which is a short video, it's not long.
Yeah. Go ahead and share that video so I can see it and pop it up so it can be ready for you.
Okay, let me make sure I got the right one set up right here, right now. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna start with this one. Get back here and share screen, and let's see. Here we go. Okay. The video, you should see the video.
Okay, I see it. You can go ahead and make your commentary, and then when you're ready for it, I'll pot it up.
Okay, great. So to Gardis's point, excellent point. On the third party tip, all we get from third party, I'm starting to believe that they are not serious. They're not serious contenders. I'm starting to believe they're just grifters, because you don't hear. Only time you hear from them is when it's time to run for president. I mean, they want to go straight to the top, like Donald Trump did. You know what I'm saying? Jill Stein, Cornel West, all of them. They don't run for, like he said, they don't run for city council. They don't run for local politics. They don't run for mayor. They don't run for state They don't run for state offices. They don't do nothing on the grassroots level. But then when it comes to running for president, they expect people to just vote for them. And some folk do fall for the okeydoke and waste a vote on them. But these people are not serious. You don't hear nothing from Jill Stein. You don't hear nothing. She's not out there protesting Gaza. She's not doing anything. And oh boy, I got some smoke for those people in Dearborn, Michigan. And my last comment, when we were talking about Kamala's plan and that she was presenting, Trump came out and said he had concepts of a plan. So people didn't even care that this man didn't have a plan. I mean, his plan for the inflation was what do you call it? Tariffs. He gonna put tariffs on, and that's supposed to reduce inflation. We don't even hear nothing about the price of eggs from him at this point. But let me go ahead and play this video. I'm gonna play it now, Brother Charles, if you can bring it back up.
Oh, they be watching.
Okay, I was waiting on you. Okay, let me go ahead and play it. Let me know, y'all. Thumbs up, y'all can hear it.
They definitely be watching. Fellow political commentators on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, keep it going because they be watching. On Thursday, March 6th, 2025, I put out a video that included this commentary. Republicans are bulldozing our Constitution and destroying our government and our society. They don't care about optics. They're not trying to work with Democrats. They're not trying to kumbaya. They're not trying to meet middle way, halfway. They're not trying to negotiate in any way, shape, or form. But that's what a lot of the Democrats and Hakeem Jeffries are trying to do. And it will never happen. We know that the Democrats have the minority in the House. We know that they are not going to be able to get things done without bringing on board Republicans. We know that. What we are saying is Republicans are not looking to work with you, Hakeem Jeffries. So we want to hear you be loud. We want to hear you resist. We want to hear you take the skeletons that's in their closets and bring it to the forefront. We want to hear you going at Republicans. We want you to expose all of their political dirty laundry that they got going on behind closed doors. We want to hear you repeatedly in front of news cameras talking about how they have plans to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We want to hear you talking about how they plan to implement that. We want to hear you talking about it on repeat. We want to hear you continuously talking about the felon. We want to hear you continuously talking about how the people around him are destroying our democracy and are violating our Constitution and how they are breaking the law. Every step they take, we want to see you, Hakeem Jeffries and Democrats, in front of the cameras calling them out on it. We don't want to hear you talking about kumbaya, let's work together. We don't want to hear that shit. That shit makes you look weak because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then Hakeem Jeffries put out this video.
I'm here in the office, just finished up a telephone town hall meeting with my dynamic sister, our Attorney General, Tish James. And my team informs me that some far-right extremists have introduced a resolution to try to throw Democratic members of the House off of our committees. That resolution is going nowhere. You ain't throwing no one off of any single committee. These people are malignant clowns. Andy Ogles is a fraud. A complete and total fraud. You aren't throwing anyone off of any committee in the House of Representatives. Don't make me expose you to folks who don't know you.
This is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. This is what
More of this, Hakeem Jeffries. more of this. You know why? Because they're not following decorum. Whatever precedents y'all had set, whatever rules of decorum that y'all had in place for hundreds of years, they're no longer following that shit, Hakeem Jeffries. Turn that hat backwards and recognize that whatever you got, you may need to expose it. And you need to get the rest of the Democrats on board. Okay? All bets are off. They've been rolling over you for a decade now. For a decade. And you're going to have to realize that this one video may not have them shaking in their boots. So you may have to expose some shit. You're going to have to stand 10 toes down in whatever it is that you got and expose it. Be ready to follow through. This shit that's happening on the other side will only be met with the same fever, the same temperature, the same comeback. Fight fire with fire. All of that niceness, that shit is over. More of this, please.
Well, I think Tabitha makes some good points. It's good to see Hakeem get a backbone because, man, I've been calling him Jelly Belly for the last 3 weeks. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about?
He finally got some bass in his voice.
Get some unas.
But how long he gonna have that bass in his voice? That's the thing.
Great question. Great question.
What the biggest thing is, we are too loyal to a single party. Instead of looking at every party to sit down and say, what is the benefits for our community? We have a lot of power. People don't realize we're one of the top consumers in this U.S. Our dollar is strong in this country, but we are so in the need to pander to some of these groups and these parties because they pay attention to us. I don't want that type of attention. I need conversations like our wonderful the dude, he always say tangibles. Where are the tangibles? Because the thing is, Democratic Party, like, I ain't got to do nothing for y'all. I ain't got to help y'all. Guess what? I give y'all a few little, bones here, but y'all y'all loyal to us. If the Black community as a whole did a mass exodus out of these parties and said, now, whatever party is willing to do what they need to do for our community, because we get ready to pull our dollars as well and start doing what we should have did during Black Wall Street, circulating our dollar within our own neighborhood. If we did that, that would change the entire game. But we're so in a need to assimilate into a group of individuals that really don't care nothing about us, even though we the one that's Black community is one of the ones that's keeping the lights on in this country. We are. But we don't know our power because we got so many people that are in a party that look like us on both sides of the fence, that look like us, that are there just to appease us, but not really bringing things to the table. Going back to California, the Black Caucus should have been held accountable for not standing firm when it came to the reparations. They didn't. So that's what happens. We pander for these attention from these people, and we need to stop being loyal to these parties and stand on our own two grounds. Say, stand on business. Say, you got to bring something to us for us to be able to have that conversation. And I bet you they're going to find a seat at the table for us.
Sister E, I have here on the screen one of your quotes here. We as Black people are too loyal to one party. Wow. And I wanted to engage with you upon this statement. You said something so powerful. And the Republicans have capitalized on this, especially Trump, to the degree that he's gotten a lot more of the Black vote than, say, his predecessor, Republican nominee Mitt Romney running against Obama in 2012, and his predecessor, John McCain, running against Barack Obama in 2008. He did get even more of the Black vote than he himself got in 2016 when he ran against Hillary. So, but he's gotten this based upon this, and this is my Trump quote when I start getting on this topic. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? That's him. What do you have to lose? Well, what do we have to gain, Mr. Trump? What do we have to gain from you? Nothing, sir. You're not offering us anything, but why do you keep voting for them? Give me a try. For what? Sister E, you're absolutely spot on here, which is why I wanted to engage with this quote that you made. We need to get out of both of these parties, Sister E. As many black people as can. Get out. Register as independents. Stop asking for a Democratic Party ticket when you show up. Don't ask for a Republican Party ticket when you show up. Ask for an independent ticket. And listen, if enough of us do it, and I've often made the point, Sister E, it doesn't take a lot of us. See, people have a tendency to down what I'm saying and say, well, oh, that's not going to happen, Charles Johnson. You still gonna have most black folks voting Democrat because it's become a tradition at this point. I don't need a lot of us to do it. Listen, all I need is enough black people to leave the Democratic Party to scare the Democratic Party, and I need enough black people to lead the Republican Party to entice the Republican Party.
Correct.
All I need is if I could get 18%, that's enough of the black vote to entice the Republicans, and there's enough black vote to scare the Democrats. If there were just 18% of us who would just be completely independent and issue demands to both of these parties and say, look, whichever one check the most boxes, that's who we gonna support, a solid 18% block. Listen, black progress has been made in this country, and it has never had 100% of black people support it.
Yep.
100% of black people didn't even support ending slavery, and they were slaves. Harriet Tubman said, I could have rescued so many more of my people if they only realized that they were slaves. Some black people were comfortable being slaves. We've never had 100% of us doing anything, and we've succeeded and made progress in spite of that fact. Yep. I'm not asking for all of us. I just need 18%, Sister E. If we could get 18% of the black vote to follow this comment that is on the screen right now from you, and then I want to yield to you so you can respond to what I'm saying. 18, it might not even need to be 18%, 15%, 12% might do it. But I'm saying I'm throwing 18% out there. I want to hear your thoughts, Sister E, about my engagement with your comment here.
I think that right there is very accurate. If because we make up a large demographic within the Democratic Party. If we said enough is enough, we're retracting our votes and we're going to the party that is going to benefit the black community. That's a game changer right there. And if we did that, like you said, if only 18 to 20% of us did this, because we're predictable, they look at us as if we're predictable. We're going to all go to the Democratic Party. They couldn't get that type of predictability out of the Hispanic community because they didn't know where they was going to vote. Same thing with the Asian community. They couldn't figure out where they were going to vote. But far as us being predictable, we are the most predictable group. And if we all did that, that would change the entire game because they know if you bring something to the table to benefit us, you're going to have a mass shift. And that can impact both parties. But we got to do that. That's all I got to say.
Beautiful. Come on in here, brother Indiana Jones. Get a piece of this here.
All right, I'm a segue. I'm gonna go I have a different perspective on this. Slightly. I think when we talk about when we talk about what Kamala didn't do and she should have did this and that and all that other stuff, I think all the media outlets are talking about all these different things associated with her and whatnot. And I think we stopped using common sense. We did not look at the character of this man that's sitting in office. We did not look we focused so much on what she isn't bringing to the table or what she was doing that we didn't look at blatant something that was so blatant. The man is dishonest. All his businesses have failed repeatedly. The bankruptcies, his integrity, everything about him. A monkey should have been able to win against him in an election. The dude was just totally unfit. All right. And to you all's point, my different perspective is I feel like we have these parties that you have a party that will kind of protect us a little bit. They're not going to go out and try to give you reparations on their own. But we also have another party that is always trying to take away. And right now we're experiencing that party taking away the things that we have fought for over the years. My opinion, and I also have seen people like Roland Martin speak towards this, you're supposed to put your candidate in place. Once you win and you put them in that seat, now you reach out to the Black Caucus and by petition and make all these demands of your candidate to try to ask them to give you the things that you want or you need in your community. Now, unfortunately, if you look on a map and see how big 40 acres is, you can forget about them ever giving all of us 40 acres. We don't even think about how much land that is. But we have to get something, but we have to start demanding it once we put our candidate in place. And I'm going to keep bringing this up throughout this whole production. Forensic data has suggested that Kamala did win. Those votes were taken away, did not count. All those votes were challenged. Brother Gardis brought up the two-party system. I feel like we already got a third party that won because these are not typical Republicans that we grew up with. This reminds me, and I could be wrong, but it feels like it's the Tea Party version of Republicans that have come into place with all these wild ideas and the radical movements and the things that they're doing. And if you think about it, you reflect back to what they were bringing to the table. These are the folks that have gotten together, and that's who's running this country as of now. That's why you got a demographic of people that support a police state because they're not being targeted. They know that's us. All the things associated with that party is what's hurting us. And I got two more points. Gardis brought up something about capitalism. It's kind of simple to me. If you had 100 people in this country that had all the food, whether they're going to eat it or not, they'll never eat all this food. They just want to hoard it to themselves. See, a good economy works when money is circulating through the economy. They got all this food. They're not willing to share it. They're not, doing anything with it. It's just sitting in their pot, in their house, and no one has access to it. That's the problem. There was a part of me that supported capitalism. I wanted to be more successful and things of that nature. And I'm doing well for myself now. But as I look at it, it does me no good not to share it with anyone else, not allow anybody else to have access to it. And these are the people that are sitting in place. And Brother Jay, you're going to I'm going to bring this up. But, these people are controlling the narrative of America and making people think that immigrants are the problem or DEI is the problem. And I said, no, they're not contributing to the economy as far as paying their share of taxes. So people can look at this video and say, you know what? Let me look up how much money certain folks made last year and how much they paid in taxes. Because I bet you if you look up how much Tesla paid in taxes last year, the dollar amount was zero. Quit listening to videos and stuff like that and, TikToks and thinking that your neighbor is your problem. Them taking money from Social Security, which is peanuts. That's not a livable wage, but you got people that have more money than they can ever spend, not allowing you to have access to it, or they want government, they want assistance from the government when there's a problem like a flood and this and that. They don't want to pay into it. But I think, I understand the concept of capitalism, but you have other countries that don't even believe in it. They're happy with being profitable every year. In the capitalistic society, they got to make more money than they made last year and then last year. Eventually, that's going to bottom out. And it's unrealistic to think that you can do that. And when that happens and you behave that way, then you start giving worse services or worse products. You start trying to get it from China. You start doing all these little different things, and you don't care about how the people are affected beneath you.
I wanted to interact with this point that you made. That part is taken away, and we aren't looking at that. And I do understand what you're saying, because that party, the Republican Party, they are taking away things. They are taking away things that have helped, and they want to take away more things. They want to come after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Trump's Supreme Court wants to take these things away. But when I think about this, should that make me say, well, we should stay with the Democrats because the Republicans are taking stuff away? But doesn't that reinforce the status quo of black people staying with the Democrats? The Democrats are not trying to put back the things that are being taken away. Because think about it like this, and then I want to hand it right back to you, Brother Gary. Think about it like this. The last thing that the Democratic Party did, I'm talking about specifically for black folks, was the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's been a long time ago. That's what Lyndon Johnson, Democratic president, did for black people. And he even made the remark that this is going to cause us to lose the South. And that's exactly what happened. The Southern Democrats split. You see, some folks know how to walk away. Let me go back to Sister E. Some folks know how to walk away, Sister E. Those white Southern Democrats, when the Democratic Party did civil rights and voting rights for black people, those Southern white people, they left the Democratic Party, Sister E. Don't you see, Sister E? Some folks know how to walk away. And they started their own party called the Dixiecrat Party. And they ran segregationist George Wallace, Alabama governor, for president in the next presidential election. They didn't even wait 2 election cycles. They left immediately, Sister E. Now, I'm asking, well, not just rhetorically, as Sister E's previous point, why can't we, the black people, do what they did and just leave instantly? Why can't we just vacate and say we're tired of getting tossed around and played with these 2 parties? So I see what you're saying, Brother Gary. One part is taken away. I think we do need to look at that. We need to look at what MAGA is doing. They are taking things away. They're not going to put those things back. I don't think, Brother Gary, that, let's say it flips around and after Trump's term is over, a Democratic president gets back in there. I don't think they're going to immediately just start putting back in place things that were taken away by the MAGA. I think that once folks take things away from black folks, I think it's gone. I don't think any part is interested in putting these things back. So we have to do, I believe, what Sister E suggested. And I know that it's kind of a difference of opinion, which is fine. I want us to talk about the difference of opinion.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
So I think that in deference to what Sister E said, we need to do what the Dixiecrats did. When they saw that the Democratic Party was helping black folks and they hate black folks, they left the Democratic Party immediately and did their own thing. I want to know, since we have the money, why can't we do that? And I want to turn it back over to you, Brother Gary, to address that. And then we want to circle back to Brother Gardis as well.
I wholeheartedly understand where you all are coming from. I do. I really do. You brought up something I'm familiar with. You're talking about the last thing they did for us was the Voting Rights Act in 1965. I slightly disagree because there have been things done that were indirectly done, or like when they addressed redlining or affirmative action, or we elected Barack, or there they we talk about DEI. They've created policies for everyone or a lot of people, but it was known that we would indirectly benefit from those things. So they weren't brought to the table like this is just for you black people. No, they did things that also that we would benefit from. And this is why a lot of us are in the positions that we are today that our grandparents couldn't be in. So, but I get the idea or the thought process of creating our own. I don't know the right answer to that per se. However, I do know there is a party that tries to be a little bit more fair than the other, and that might be, and this is my opinion, might be the best lane to go through to get the things that we need or more support. But what we have a tendency of doing is we go out and vote. After that person wins, then everybody sits at home. No one goes out and say, all right, I put you in this position. Now we want this, we want that. We don't assemble and then go through the proper channels to go get things. And then the threat should be if you do not listen to us or you don't try to address these desires or needs in our communities, then when it's time to vote again, we will not be supporting you. But I find, when we talk about starting our own thing and then our own party, so I looked at like Cornel West running independently. I looked at Ice Cube, and I looked at Dr. Umar. They're getting on social media and saying, why are you going out there to vote? We ain't going to get nothing out of that vote. We ain't getting nothing out of that vote. That had a little impact of people coming out to vote. But the problem is, when you don't go with your strongest option for success and support, you help get that other person that's trying to take everything away from you. Now, what I'm expressing is just my opinion. Others may see it a different way. I don't claim to know the right answers, but I have looked at certain people and do have great influence, like Roland Martins, or I'm friends with Jesse Jackson Jr. on Facebook, and I've looked at others, and I kind of understand where they're coming from and some things that they suggest, and it inspires some of my thoughts. And I've looked at things, and I kind of agree with that way to go. But it might take some time because we never thought we'd get a black president. Maybe if we did just get our own party, but we can't do it by ourselves either. I jokingly say a rapper is never going to go platinum if only black people buy their records. You need others to buy in as well to get to that point. So, but I respect you all's thoughts and your views at it. And, I'm trying to figure it out just like you all and a lot of others that are watching this.
You got to look at this too as well. A lot of these bills that were created. Let's talk about the voting bill. Let's talk about desegregation. All these bills, I look at it as being something that was a financial conversation as well. When you have as much money in black communities circulating the way it was circulating, because the dollar stayed in the black community before we integrated into other communities, which made us very strong. So desegregation was a financial benefit for their economy because we had created the biggest concern about segregation is we had built our own economy that was thriving during turbulent times. Mm-hmm. And white communities wasn't thriving as well. So they said, wait, hold on. We got to merge them in, but we got to find a way to merge them in, because once we merge them in, we got that dollar. Our dollar is strong. And I really see that it was more for them than for us. Because what happened was we took our spending power in our own communities to build up our communities, to build other communities, and it still wasn't benefiting us in the long run. When you look at redlining is quietly still instituted. It's called gentrification. What I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna openly redline you. I'm going to ensure that I create in these corporate structures that they give us, that they let us get into, glass ceilings, so that I can ensure you don't make it to a point where you're at the same level as your white peer. Because guess what? I can be able to do more and I can circulate more money. So, but I'm going to allow you to come in. Because when you look at these corporations, it's a lot of Black people that are in lower level positions. But when you start looking at these management structures and these executives and these C-suites, majority of them are white male or white women. You don't see us in there. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to allow y'all to come in. Democrat Party said we open the door. Now pull yourself up by your bootstrap. How? When I'm being condemned as I'm walking through the door, you're expecting me to perform at the same level as my peer who's been here for 5 years, and I'm just now learning the system. So you pulling me in, you create the glass ceiling. Then you got redlining. Redlining is no more, but we have something called gentrification. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into these Black communities. I'm going to bully you out of your houses and out of your businesses, and I'm going to raise the price so high that you cannot get in. Because I've already created the glass ceiling where you're not making the same wages as your white peers. I'm going to make sure you can't get the real estate. And the thing is, but I still need your money to circulate. I need you to still go buy things because your dollar is powerful, but I still need to control you. So the Democrats offered us something, but still had controls there. There's no freedom and liberty to be able to have the same access as my peers. I mean, and you see it every day. So with that being said, I don't see them being protective. I see them they see the benefits of us, but let's control them so that they cannot rise above us. Because if we don't, what'll happen is you'll have a bunch of Black people in positions competing at the same level, getting the same education, getting everything they're getting, and we're going to consistently drive. When you look at the inventions that was put in place in this country, if they snatched every Black person out in their inventions, we wouldn't have light bulbs. We're innovative people. We know how to do these things. We wouldn't have stoplights. We wouldn't have all these things. So they said, let's keep them because we need them, but let's make sure that we create this glass ceiling that they can see, but they're not going to be able to get in. So the Democrats is not trying to break the barriers for us to get in. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for an opportunity to be successful, to buy property, to do this. But because you've created these ceilings and these banks that deny you for whatever reason, but won't deny the same white peer, you put us in a position where we're in what we call a conundrum. We can't succeed. We're only sustained.
I love what you're saying because see, the thing is, the Democrats, they're not, I mean, I'm not saying they don't need to be scrutinized at all because they play a role, just like you're saying. But it seems to me, it's like they'll let us to get to a certain point, like you're saying. To me, it seems like the Republicans, they don't even want you to have that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I can respect your ideology of saying that we need our own party. And I know, and I was also saying that we can't do it all by ourselves. Because every time we have built our communities like Black Wall Street, and there's been many flavors of Black Wall Streets. Once we got it, what happened to it? What happened to it?
Right.
I'm asking a question. They burned it down.
White rage destroyed it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It. And
will we make money? Will we make money? They like that because we are consumers. Right. Like I will not watch Tubi because Rupert Murdoch, who played a role with the CW or some of those Black shows back in what was that? Early mid-90s?
Fox.
Oh, that was Fox? Yeah. So they create all these Black shows. You have Tubi, they have these low budget Black productions and stuff like that. They take that money that we make or help him earn, and then that's what helped fund Fox News, things like that. So our money is definitely valuable. A lot of us, we get money and we go out and spend it and buy expensive things. So I wholeheartedly receive what you're saying, and that is such a fair and reasonable argument and rebuttal.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but much great respect for it.
Yeah, and I see Brother Salam is here. I want to turn it over and let Brother Gardis have his comments, and then I want to introduce Brother Salam, and you already know what I'm gonna have to do when I introduce Brother Salam. So stay tuned for that because I want him to respond to a clip from 2005. But go right ahead, Brother Gardis.
Yes, thanks. I think it was you, Brother Charles, who talked about the Dixiecrats and how they kind of formed away from the party of the South because of the fact that they were supporting civil rights because of the fact that Johnson became president and supported signing the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and such and
They
such.
left the Democratic Party. Yep.
They left the Democratic Party. But I think there's actually a better example during that same time of not necessarily creating their own party, but basically creating a splinter party that didn't necessarily cater to the corporate part of the political party, but actually fought for the working class people of their area, and that's the Mississippi Freedom Party Democrats. That was created by Fannie Lou Hamer.
Fannie Lou Hamer, right?
Yes.
Great.
And I think that's a model that could possibly work because the thing is, and I think Sister E talked about loyalty to the party. Well, the thing was that while their political ideas aligned with the party platform, they still had an outlet to criticize the party's leaders because of the fact that they have that particular freedom. And during that time, many Southerners, despite the fact that we there was this narrative that Lyndon Johnson was signing these civil rights bills, they feel like he still wasn't doing enough for the progression of Black folks, not just in the South but also in the North as well. So when the Mississippi Democrats, the Black ones, tried to go to the 1964 convention, they were blocked. So they ended up having to create their own party, which was the Mississippi Freedom Democrats, and it garnered a lot of attention. I think they had, from my understanding, they had like 80. They had like a lot of delegates that went there, and they had a lot of support. So I think that model possibly could be the way out of the particular parties, because while we say that Black folks are loyal to the Democratic Party, we can actually splinter it. And I think somebody talked about the Tea Party and how the Tea Party basically was formed through mostly Republicans, but surprisingly enough, there were frustrated Democrats in the Tea Party as well. And the party, the Republican Party, I see, is basically kind of like hardcore white nationalists, if you ask me. It's straight up hardcore Jim Crow white nationalist party right now. But I think also to the point of Sister E, when she talked about building up our own economy, and it has happened before. It's happened several times. But I think somebody also brought up the point of whenever we build that stuff, it's always destroyed. And the question becomes, if we do build our own economy, how are we going to protect it? Because this shifts into the geopolitical scene and how the United States is losing its power around the world now, whether it be economically, the dollar's losing its value because many countries are not trading in the US dollar anymore. You got the alignment of the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and several other countries who are aligning economically to basically form their own bank. I forgot the name of the BRICS bank, but it basically rivals what the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank does. And a lot of what Trump is doing right now with these tariffs and stuff like that, trying to take over the Panama Canal, is he's basically trying to save U.S. imperialism from a fall.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem too is that now that they're not the sole military superpower of the world, because now you got China and then you got Russia, who are armed nuclear nations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you can't necessarily bully people militarily, especially China, how do you dominate the world? And so it goes to the issue of protection, because if you look at China is a protected country.
Mm-hmm.
Like the United States is not going to invade China. That's not going to happen. It's basically kind of a no, to me at least, it's a no-win situation if you do that. China's military, while it's not really to the size of the United States, it's up there. It's up there. So, as Black people, we have to think, work locally and think globally. And so,
I like that.
The question is, how do we, if we build our own economy, how do we protect it?
Right.
I think that's an outstanding question. And as we pivot to that, we have Brother Salam here. And of course, since Brother Salam is here, I definitely want to kick you off with one of my favorite quotes from the minister. Let's just listen to him for just a little while here.
Yes, sir.
Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. But power won't even concede to a demand if the demand is coming from a weak constituency that looks like they've lost their testicular fortitude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I always love to just play one of my favorite clips from the minister, of course, quoting the great Frederick Douglass, one of the great Black men from right around the end of the Civil War and slavery and then Reconstruction. Power is not gonna they're not gonna give up anything to a weakened petitioner.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, power doesn't give up anything to a weaker position, and those power dynamics. That's the way that the world really works. So we have to be in a position, Brother Salam, and I'm handing over to you. If you could give us some of your thoughts about, and you could even, agree with some of what's already been said here that you've heard, and add your own, seasoning to the steak, so to speak, about what your thoughts are.
So to speak. Well, greetings to everyone there. Yourself, Brother Charles, J Mac, invited me. Sister E, a pleasure sharing space and time with you. And
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum assalam. And a couple of old faces, Gary, Indiana Jones, and Brother Gardus, I see from other groups how both of you brothers are doing. I hope you guys are doing well in spite of the prevalence of the circumstances right now. So, I'd like to start, and pardon me if I'm saying something that was already spoken on. Many of you know I'm a baker on the side, of course, but if I were to make a cheesecake, right, and I say, okay, let's divide this cheesecake up equally, right? And so we have one powwow, and then we say, well, we can't reach an agreement, we go step away. But when you come back, you notice I already took a piece of cake. Right. So we have these powwows, back and forth, but every time we leave in and decide to reconvene, I'm coming away eating another piece of cake. So I say, Brother Charles, man, there's only one piece of cake left now. So what we got to do? We got to cut this in half, bro, right? You're like, what? That's why you're going to be looking at me, right?
I want my whole piece, brother
You want
Salam. I
the
don't know
whole
about
pie.
you.
You see what I'm saying? So like this is where we are in terms of imbalance, and not only the folks in power, but also I heard a lot of what Sister E was saying. A lot of folks that we have on the blue side of the aisle have been suggesting that we that we promote neutrality or acquiescence in the face of a weighted scale, and I just don't think it's a sustainable model here. So I did hear of a third party being brought up, and I truly agree with that. Yes, there are third party individuals and there are third party ideas, to J Mac's earlier point, who seemingly come around during election time. At least that's what we hear mostly. I followed Jill Stein closely. I heard her entire conversation. She was on Tavis Smiley's radio show interview in the summer, and Tavis basically gave her the whole hour to just talk. And I thought it was interesting that she did point out reparations for us, and that conversation came up. And interestingly enough, we had the California Black Caucus, who basically didn't even make a motion during the hearing, to bring it to a vote. So when they refused it, I heard you mention this is California, where I reside, Southern California, the bluest state in the nation. But there are pockets, of redness around. So you see some blush mixed around that coal, so it almost look like a Slurpee out here, So where I live, Simi Valley is about less than 10 minutes to the west of me. That's where Stacy Coon and the other three cops who were convicted who were tried, I should say, for beating Rodney King were tried right here in Simi Valley. But I didn't know when I moved here that Rodney King was beat to the east of me in Lakeview Terrace, which is LA County. So I'm like, how did they get the trial moved from LA County across county lines to Ventura County? If I got a ticket over here in LA County, and I had to go to court to present my case, I'm doing it in LA County. I can't get that moved over there, but that's another conversation. But we're in a position of powerlessness, and all fronts. And we've heard Sister, our dear ancestor now, Frances Cress Welsing, speak about the chessboard, right? 9 columns. She mentioned those 9 categories: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And a lot of times we're just focused on playing chess and using that one column, or a row for that matter. And when you're playing chess that way, you're bound to lose. So we're not moving the pieces forward. And a lot of times, what I see, even amongst us, the consciousness ranks in our own people, we have those who say, well, no, education is the way to go. We rehash these these W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T arguments, all over again. And we start shadowboxing each other, to where we can't move ahead. We don't come to like a consensus really, or what is our hot button topics, that we can focus on, even if we don't agree on everything. We may not agree necessarily with a methodology, but if I could sell the fact that what I'm presenting is a meaningful solution for all of us, can we rally around that? Can we set our differences aside to get that thing moving? And when I saw this particular presidential election, I saw Black men get drugged by their ankles behind a pickup, throughout the time. And it was not falling lockstep with Kamala. It wasn't nothing personal against Kamala necessarily, but Kamala was put in a precarious situation by the selfishness of Joe Biden, if you ask me. He knew as well as the folks who put him there, how old that man was. So we knew the I guess the shaky ground that we stood on, like in terms of his health and his cognition. Yet, um, those reasons were called to fore months later, and perhaps it ate into any kind of time that Kamala had to prepare, to move forward. So that part is true. Um, and I felt it was selfish, on Biden's part to like eat into that. At the same time, though, um, we hear, and I've said this before, how when I don't want to say we, but when the Democrats had the House, even if it's by a small margin, when they had the Senate, when they had the tiebreaker, they had the chance to even. I look at Obama's second term, for instance. Obama could have signed some EOs, and he didn't. Even more so,
What did
the
they
irony
do?
was that. Say it again.
I'm asking you, what did they do when they had their great advantage? They painted the White House in the rainbow colors with the
Right.
image. With
They
the
they created a reparations garden outside.
see that?
And what
See
I
that?
saw was so insulting about that is you creating a reparations garden on the same land that we tilled. We tilled that land, right? So, we're gonna give you a garden. We tilled the land of this place. We built this. We sold this up. But all you're gonna give us is a garden. Give us a street mural. Say Black Lives Matter and this, that, and the other. I mean, the total irony.
Symbology.
Yeah, the irony of it all is Black Lives Matter really became a thing under a Obama presidency. The irony of that, right? When Trayvon was killed, Obama was going into his second term. Well, at least the guy's a couple of feet in there, and so that became. And remember when Henry Louis Gates got hemmed up, in his own house,
Yep, the
and
beer
then
summit. I remember the beer summit.
yes, and so but do you remember the knee-jerk reaction was Obama said the cops had behaved stupidly. Those are his
They
words.
behaved stupidly.
The police union got in on him and in some way, and basically you would have thought they waterboarded the man. You would have thought they had his daughter tied up in a Brooklyn basement. They drug him back out here, and
I
then said,
caught
"Okay,
the
well,
BIG reference.
yeah, there you go." And said, come on, let's come on over here and let's have that beer conference. I thought. I mean, I'm lucky. Henry Louis Gates is a better man than me. I don't see myself
You're right about that.
sharing it. This is my house. You coming in my door. And to Brother Gardis's point, when we do have our own, how do we protect it? I'm gonna quote. Yeah, you probably know this young brother. He's older than me, but look way younger than me. Brother Nuri Muhammad, and he said that the black dollar circulates within the black community for a total of 6 hours. And he said that means by the time you go to work and clock in at 8 in the morning, before you take your second break in the afternoon, your dollar's already gone outside the community.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Already gone.
So how do we solve that piece, right? Then to Brother Gary's point, yeah, we do. Black folks, we ball. We do it real big. And nobody floss like we floss. Okay, I'm just keeping it 100. We get the chinchilla fur on a car, car carpet and whatnot. We got every LV thing, and nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And those shadow box on those who have those things, but a lot of times we pursue those things without taking care of some basis around it. Like we don't have any of the thing that's tangible, to put it in my neighbor Tariq's words, tangible to like show for that we could turn into some sort of power and leverage for ourselves. So to Gardis's question, how do we protect it? Yes, every time we build something, they burn it down. But in the words of Bobby Seale, when they told him, when they reported to him in Oakland, when the offices, the black BPP offices in Chicago got firebombed. The cops were in there, urinated on the food for the free breakfast program, setting books on fire and stuff like that. They complained to Bobby Seale, well, the pigs came and did this, that, and the other. Bobby Seale's like, you got the deed to that building. Open it back up. You know, we have to have a fighting spirit about this. You know, and to quote Mr. Farrakhan, he said that if there's no killing in you, there's no God in you. So we
Oh,
got
I
to
like
stand.
it.
We got to stand. You
I
know,
like it.
and like I'm approaching 50, bruh. You know, like when are we gonna be free? That's the question I ask myself every day. I look in the mirror. What time is it when we're gonna do this thing? I don't care if I'm the causal agent behind it. I don't care if my brother or sister over there come up with the solution. Tell me, how can I get behind you and we make this thing move? That's
Yeah,
what
and
that's what I'm all about. Because
yeah,
my last point,
go ahead.
in addition to having LLCs and having property, we need folks in these rooms to make sure that the property that they're allowing us to get is suitable to build on, is suitable to farm on, and it doesn't have any cancer causing agents like they build these landfills in our neighborhoods. Like my neighborhood, I grew up in Inglewood in Chicago. You know, I mean, there's no accident that the mercury exposure levels, the lead levels are high in our neighborhood. Brother Wesley Muhammad did a wonderful graphical representation that showed a direct relationship between lead and mercurial exposure to homicidal tendencies. But yet they'll look and say, "Oh, look, it's the N words. They're the problem. They're the problem." No, they do this by design. So we got to make sure that the land that we get is pure, is fertile, you know, that we can get. So who can we get in these rooms to make sure we can get that quality of land? Another thing is, even if we get our own land, our own stuff, what's our access to water looking like? They shut off the water. We have power sources, so that spills into the environmental space. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I know I can speak for me. Maybe others feel this way. Black folks didn't really tend to pay attention to the environmental warfare that's been at our throat for the past several decades. We're too busy trying to survive, which I understand. But those are the type of rooms that we need our best and brightest in if we're going to have a systemic environment for us to grow and push forward. I yield back.
Absolutely right. And I want to circle back to the panel, beginning with Brother Gary, then going to Sister E, then Brother J Mac, and then ending up with Brother Gardis about a response to what Brother Salam has laid out, and add any more thoughts that you have. Go right ahead, Brother Gary.
See, I'm still here. I'm just grabbing something to break my fast right quick, but keep going. I'm taking the thing with me. Keep going.
Yes, sir. You good, my brother. You good.
First and foremost, I want to thank everyone. What I'm really enjoying about this panel is we can have slight disagreements or different perspectives, but we're having a productive conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that people are saying that might even be different from what I'm thinking, it sparks a thought. It's not a place where we're arguing back and forth and now emotions are overtaking the points. To chime in on Brother Salam, you know, for me, I think we're dealing with a much bigger problem that we have been dealing with in the past, and we're dealing with a global issue now because of this current administration. My personal opinion is, well, this is what I would do for the public, or what I would suggest. Go look in the history of Trump's ties with Russia and his businesses from the times that everything was failing. He filed all these bankruptcies and no banks would give him any loans. And he had to leave this country to get opportunities. And who supported him? I'll let you do the rest of the research. The reason why I bring that up, you know, we're looking at the warfare that we deal with in our communities and stuff like that. We have all these other countries assembling. We're doing all this infighting with ourselves and in our politics and stuff like that. And I think Garvis was talking about warfare, or maybe it was you, Brother Charles. war is going to be different now. They're attacking our economy. They're attacking our minds with social media. Every empire has fallen, and now we're in this situation where blacks are fighting with the whites. You got Democrats fighting with Republicans. You got people mad at Mexicans and immigrants and stuff like that. You got on and on and on and all this other stuff. And my question would be, like, if somebody can answer this for me, like, so if we're going to do another party, for example, what percentage of blacks or African Americans live in the U.S.? Does anybody have any idea? Or
yeah, like, what is it, like 11%, 12% of the population?
Just under 14%.
Mm-hmm.
And that means if we create our own party, we also got to get a buy-in of 36% or 37% to be over half of others to join that party too. My question would be, would it be like what Brother Islam was saying? You know, I mean, if we do that, you know, how do we get others to join us? And or no, it was Gardis where we were talking about creating a segment in that party to fracture it, to make that party just start saying, you know, we better value them now more than what we have and quit taking them for granted. You know what I mean? You know, and I'm going to keep emphasizing on this. I believe this current administration has cheated to get these votes and get their candidate in. There's two different groups that I look at. One was manipulation of data, the way it was transmitted, and then others through voter suppression. And then, yeah, you can't criticize the Barack administration for some things. But you know what? I look at him like he was progress, because it used to be a joke to say that we would ever have a black president. I met Barack, and he was running against Bobby Rush for U.S. Senate. And the people at that venue that I was at told me and my wife, and we weren't married yet at the time, oh, he's going to be the next president. We cracked up laughing. Now, I'm going to embarrass myself. We were like, what? I ain't going to say everything we said. But we thought that was the most ridiculous thing. And it happened. Mm-hmm. And it was weird to me that it was said way back then. I think this was Bush's first term. And I say that because, you know, I think a lot of this stuff is planned, structured. They already know what's going to happen. They feed us a narrative and stuff like that. And, you know, they know what's going on. They put these people in place. They know what they want to achieve. And one of my first statements in the beginning of this was, when you're looking at these problems, you got to follow the money. Mm-hmm. You have to follow the money. And I really don't think, and then I'm almost kind of scared if they were to give us reparations, because if they do that, are they going to say, now every time we complain or we want some fairness, they're like, we gave you reparations. Now we really would get ignored. Now, of course, I think we're entitled to it, but I don't even trust them to give us the right thing. You look at what they did to the Native Americans, mm-hmm. giving them their own land. Did they really get their own land? What kind of situation were they put in?
Right.
You have to be in certain areas. Like, I can't say the last time I went to a restaurant and I saw a family of Native Americans sitting down to eat. Mm-hmm. What would they do to us? They give us something to shut us up? I don't know. But, you know, the last point I'll make is what we have been given, as far as Brother Islam was talking about, the stuff that the land that we were given to live in. You know, they don't talk about it a lot, but I remember being in high school. Gardis, you might remember this. I can remember being in school and sometimes hearing about reports. I mean, not reports, but people just saying, hey, man, did you hear today they found some guns, a crate of guns in the alley?
Yeah.
I knew it happened in Inglewood. I knew it happened on the west side. I knew it happened in like the area over there near Dalton, Riverdale. Mm-hmm. They were just sitting out there. And I don't know this for a fact, but I have seen videos of there being suggestions that people with special interests used to put that stuff in our neighborhoods to get the behaviors that you see.
Right.
So
Well,
we
money.
have a local problem, we have our racial problem, and now with this new administration, I think we have a global issue. You know what I mean? Yeah, but good points. I appreciate it. I enjoyed everything you said, brother.
Oh yeah, brother Gary. Go right ahead, Sister E.
I think the conversation, everything that Salam, and I hope I'm saying it right, Salam said, makes sense. Once we establish where's the security, it's the key element right there. For every community that we built, they destroyed. And that we have to take that into account when we say, hey, we need to step out on our own. But the thing is, I think it goes into play of my dollar speaks. You're gonna make sure that I remain secure. Now, are they gonna do that? No, they're not. The ultimate goal is to and I'm gonna be honest, the ultimate goal is to just keep us, not to get rid of us, because they need us. They need the workhorses, they need the money, but to subdue us and make us become the model minority. We will never be the model minority, because me being a minority was not in the way up. The model minority we see now, they came on their own with an idea, a plan, and a loan to come over here and build businesses. My people were brought here by ships.
Right.
And put on plantations to work. And you still and not give us, but paid that was what was owed to us. So
Right.
because of that, I have a fear of you. That a model minority. I've already, they call Asians the model minority. I've already created a pact with them. We're good. We've created a group and a community within itself. So I don't have to worry about the Asian community, but I have to worry about this group over here. This is why they was dropping guns off, because they don't want to decimate us. They want to subdue us because we still have value here. So with that being said, I agree with Salam. All these ideas in these conversations, the key to the element is security. Because again, we're never secure. Wherever we go, there's no security. If we left and went to Africa tomorrow, or we left and went to Asia tomorrow, we left and went to India tomorrow, what I consider to be foundational Black Americans will always have to be able to find our own security, because nobody wants to secure us. Nobody cares enough to make sure that we're safe. But with that being said, I think everything was good. Now, on the part of reparations, I see it as being, again, owed, not given to us. If they give us what's owed, I don't care what people think about what we're gonna do with the money. That's our money. Let us figure it out. Let us brainstorm. But with that being said, I think the overall conversation, I think Salam brought up great points, dealing with the concept of going back into segregation, because eventually, I'm gonna be honest, y'all, the way things are looking, it looks like we're gonna have to make a pivot to that, almost, because again, these programs that don't benefit us, they're still there, they're snatched them, and we're finna take y'all back to the old South. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like they're trying to take us back to that. But guess what happened when we were in that era? We still thrived in it. We still thrived. We didn't stop eating. We didn't stop functioning. They took us out of slavery, and guess what? You don't let us buy lumber to build houses. We're gonna create our own lumber companies. We can't buy dry goods at your facility. We're gonna create our own dry goods store. We can't have this. We're gonna create our own. And that's where we are our strongest. And I think that's where we're getting ready to go pivot to, because the white nationalists are out right now within the parties. They're
loud and proud.
Both parties, the nationalists are out, and ultimately, white America's been in a position they've never been in before. They've never been unable to spend money the way they normally been able to spend money, to keep the jobs, to keep this. So instead of saying we built a system that's designed to break, because the system they built was going to break anyway, I'm going to blame the minority in the room so that I can feel like it's not my fault. So that's what we're getting ready to see, because they're lashing out right now because you don't have jobs, you don't have access to money because of political parties steering the pot. And with steering that part, they gotta find somebody in the room to blame. And guess who's being blamed right now? All these programs don't allow us to have access. DEI don't have access. Bam, it blew up in their face. They got impacted by it. Affirmative action is not benefiting us. Guess what? The Asian community that fought against us, they're hurt by this and they're crippled by it. If they took the civil rights bill away right now, guess what would happen? We would still keep going.
Of course we would.
We would still keep
because of who we are.
Correct. We were birthed and baptized in this. So guess what? We're gonna keep it moving. But it'll make us think different.
Right.
I don't care about them tearing down these things. Fine, do it. I said it on my channel once. People thought I was crazy. I said tear it down. Maybe Black folks need to feel it and stop being subdued by these programs that's not benefiting us, and open our eyes to realize we only can function when we take care of each other. So with that being said, I think everything everybody said on the panel are great points. I love the dialogue. I love the fact that we're able to disagree or agree and still be civil with one another. And it's good dialogue and it's making people think. So, but that's my point. What I heard was Salam that made a lot of sense. Where is our security?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sister E. Brother J Mac, go right ahead, and I got your video ready to play.
Okay, yeah, Sister E, I hear you. But I am not ready to go back to live under Jim Crow law. So I'm going to fight to keep our civil rights laws. But let me play this video. You want to know who's running the country? President Elon Musk. This is who Elon Musk is.
This is a remarkable sort of measure of how the world has turned, that a nostalgic product of apartheid South Africa, Elon Musk, whose grandparents moved there after the Second World War. They were in the Canadian Nazi Party, his maternal grandparents. They moved to apartheid South Africa to be with people with whom they felt at home. A family legacy that he's not repudiated, that his mother very much carries on. If you've sort of caught her at all on TV, she turns up both sides of the Atlantic. She's a alt-right, sort of unapologetic exponent of what her son is also pushing, and his algorithm is also promoting on his social media site. And this is far-right politics, hatred of multiculturalism. What he said to the AFD rally that he addressed, in that sort of Orwellian big screen, his face comes up, and he says you should no longer feel guilt for what your grandparents or great-grandparents did. It was very clear what he was talking about in a speech that attacks immigration and multiculturalism, the idea that different races cannot live together. This is not something we should just dismiss as a sort of bloviation or the trolling of a sort of Silicon Valley tycoon. This is the sort of shadow president of the United States. And Trump doesn't contradict him, and sometimes Trump echoes him and amplifies him, and vice versa. I cannot stress the newness of this, and the ominous, so the tone of menace to this is very real, and it's being noticed, all around the world, including in allied countries that thought they were allies of the United States and are now beginning to wonder. This is a remarkable sort of.
Yeah. So before I play my next video, just wanted to make the point that Elon Musk is an apartheid South African who's running our country. And if you look at how he structures his company, he ain't got no black folk running nothing over there. You guys saw what he did to Twitter when he took it over. And he's going full steam of this anti-DEI. If anybody doesn't know by now, when they think of DEI and when DEI come out of their mouth, they're talking about black folk. That's why you heard the video. Charlie Kirk was talking about black pilots. They get on the plane and they see a black pilot and they're nervous. So in their minds, the only people who are qualified in their minds are white men. And what a lot of white women have come to find out is they're not equal with white men either. So they're coming to find that out. This is what the find out phase of America is going through. Let me stop sharing that one, and I got another one. I'm going to share real quick.
Quick question before you proceed with that.
Go ahead, Sister.
I guess the biggest question is dealing with the, and I'll wait till you get done with your video because it may lead to a deeper conversation. But make sure I get a chance to ask a question about your thoughts when it comes to DEI. So I'll be back. I mean, I'll let you keep going because I don't want to.
Yeah, and bro, J Mac, while you're trying to pull that video up, that next video that you want to share, you know, when Elon at the inauguration did that Nazi salute, I mean, it was right up his alley. I'm like, y'all forget that this is an apartheid baby.
That was what it was.
This is what he grew up with. I mean, this is who he is. So
it was blatant and obvious.
And yeah, it was blatant and obvious. It's not strange. It wasn't strange to me. I was like, he just repping who he is. That's what he's down with.
And notice, Charles, that Elon, all these people that were coming and said, oh, that wasn't what y'all think. Y'all are blowing it out of proportion, blah, blah, blah. Not one time has Elon denied what it is.
Right. You can go ahead and play it.
Okay.
At the very least, trying to erase the contributions of... A few weeks ago, I talked about the fact that Donald Trump is trying to erase, at the very least, trying to erase the contributions of Black people, of women, of gay and lesbian and transgender Americans, and a host of other groups that he just doesn't like because wokeness? Make it make sense. It's just bigotry. It's just hatred. It's just white supremacy on full display. It's like these people never graduated from adolescence where, you know, everybody feels insecure, and some kids who are a little maybe stronger physically than others will attack other kids to make themselves feel better. And these Republicans just never grew out of that. They never matured out of that adolescent bullshit. And some of these people get tremendous power, Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and they continue this cycle of hatred and division and otherism. And I'm going to read from this AP headline, and then we're going to go through some photos. There's a part of this website where you can just click through and see, and we're going to look at what photos are deleted. The Department of Defense, you know from the headline, you know from the title and the description, or you know from the title, you know from the thumbnail. Get it together, Dollamore. What is taking place? They are systematically going through the Department of Defense at the direction of Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces, and Pete Hegseth, the absolute dolt, unqualified, meritless clown who runs the Pentagon. They are deleting historic and otherwise photos, evidence of diversity within the military. Here's the headline from the Associated Press.
Today's actually a really exciting day because we got to unfold one of these units.
War heroes and military firsts are among 26,000 images flagged for removal in Pentagon's DEI purge. References to a World War II Medal of Honor recipient, the Enola Gay aircraft that dropped an atomic bomb on Japan, and the first women to pass Marine infantry training are among the tens of thousands of photos and online posts marked for deletion as the Defense Department works to purge diversity, equity, and inclusion content, according to a database obtained by the Associated Press. The database, which was confirmed by U.S. officials and published by the Associated Press, includes more than 26,000 images that have been flagged for removal across every military branch. But the eventual total could be much higher. One official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to provide details that have not been made public said the purge could delete as many as 100,000 images or posts in total when considering social media pages and other websites that are also being culled for DEI content. The official said it is not clear if the database has been finalized. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had given the military until Wednesday to remove content that highlights diversity efforts in its ranks following President Donald Trump's executive order ending those programs across the federal government. The vast majority of Pentagon purge targets women and minorities, including notable milestones made in the military, and it also removes a large number of posts that mention various commemorative months, such as those for Black and Hispanic people and women. So we'll go through here and we'll look for some terms that give you an idea that maybe it's deleted because it deals with women or people of color. And look here, we're in the Marines. My particular heart, because I was in the United States Marine Corps for many years, served in several Victor units, deployable combat units, and we'll go through here. So let's see. Oh, here we go. The fewer, the proud female Marines. This is the image name.
So if people want to watch the rest of the video, basically it's Jesse Dollamore on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel, but I brought that out to highlight. Let me stop sharing my screen. I brought that out to highlight one of the first things the Trump administration did when he first came in. He ordered the removal of basically Black history from the military. He ordered all federal agencies not to celebrate Black history. Then it was just recently. Correct me if I'm correct. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Charles. This Black general, I don't know if he was a Joint Chiefs of Staff or he's a 5-star general. They just fired him.
Yeah, he was one of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff usually transcend administration change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But they fired him without
Right.
No explanation. Right. He's got great credentials. Even people in the military are speaking up for him. So what am I saying?
And the person they replaced them with has even less credentials.
Right. Well, I mean, Pete Hessek himself is a Fox News commentator. He was in the military, but he was never a general. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, like you make a talk show host the Secretary of Defense is crazy work.
Right. But so Donald Trump came in firing on attacking Black history because that's DEI, removing Black history and threatening schools for teaching Black history, trying to get rid of the Department of Education, dumb down Americans even more. But then he turned around, and because I guess he's got enough sense to say, well, I gotta throw these Black folks a bone. So he holds, even though he ordered the federal government not to celebrate Black history, he holds a Black History Month celebration in the White House with a bunch of Black Republicans, and they invited Tiger Woods, who looked so out of place. I don't even think he knew what he was really there for until the cameras came on.
His face was priceless.
Yeah. And we're supposed to say, oh, well, see, Trump is not racist. See, he had Black History Month in the White House. I can't believe people are so gullible. The man is for the last 30 days now or more, 6 weeks, has shown us who he is. And it ain't just Black people. I'm just saying. Because we talked about it when we first started. All these people that's got their wake-up call, the Latinos, women, and Black folk already knew. That's why 90% of us had supported, voted for Kamala. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then we probably have to do another, because I know Charles want to start shutting it down. We have to do another broadcast. We can get into some more stuff, because I had a lot of stuff lined up, and I know that some other folk want to get in here. So I'm going to go ahead and land on that.
Okay, yeah, and Sister Lee wanted to ask you something, Brother J Mac. So before you landed, we're gonna let her chime in with a question for you right quick in light of your two videos, and then we'll move on to Brother Gardis.
Good question. So I guess the obvious point I want to make is all these programs, it's not really a question, but I'm gonna make a statement. All these programs that is technically directed towards us, it's not really hitting us, it's hitting them. The only concern I have with what the Democrats are doing right now is they're trying to utilize us again as the fuel to the protest, the fuel to the fire. They give us all these programs. How are we benefiting from it? because it's more to implementing something. You got to sustain it and ensure that it runs the way it's supposed to run. When you look at DI, it did not benefit us. When you look at affirmative action, it somewhat benefited us, but ultimately that's where you create that glass ceiling where I'm blocked when it gets to a certain level. When you start looking at all these programs, a lot of these programs never really benefited us. It benefited other minorities. It benefited the Asian. It benefited the white women. It benefited all these groups. So guess what? They're impacted by these programs being shut down. Even with the dumb argument that I'm taking welfare away. Well, we are not the biggest.
No,
we
we're
don't
not.
get majority of welfare. But
That's right. Those are white people.
Correct. They're the ones being impacted. But what they do is, oh, black people, he coming for y'all. Oh, black people. And this is the first time I have seen black people say we finna take a seat. Because the thing is, either party is not listening to us, and we're gonna just take a back seat to this. But what they do is, oh, look what they're getting ready to do to the black people. Why do they use us as a face when really we're the face to start the conversation, but the benefits of the conversation when these programs, we're left out of the conversations. We're left out of the decision making. We left out of these rooms. So I don't care. That's why I say I care nothing about these programs, because the programs was only implemented to benefit. I'm going to say the top group that benefit from these programs are white women.
Okay.
White women are the top.
Okay. Well, I hear what you're saying, and I think that at some point it did morph into what you're saying. But I do remember, even though I was a child, I was born in '68. For those who may not know, but I'm very versed on the unions. I'm versed on history of how when black folks started getting good jobs per se. Now I know that the car plants were hiring black people in the 50s, but the floodgates really opened up in the 60s after the Civil Rights Bill. And what I guess I'm driving at is that affirmative action says, hey, you have to, at least have a percentage of black people. You have to at least consider, because before that, they weren't considering this, hardly none of us at all. That's why we were so segregated. Black people was basically working in the black community. But they have to consider a certain percentage. Well, guess what? Even the percentage that they considered were more than qualified. I mean, for example, look at Hidden Figures. I know that's, NASA, and that's the top of the line. But if those ladies were not hired and not involved and not allowed to do what they were doing, would America have been able to get a rocket ship into space? They weren't able to do that without a black woman. So what I'm saying is, yes, these programs, became all inclusive. I agree, but I know in dealing with where I grew up, and I wholeheartedly believe this: if affirmative action and inclusion did not exist, I do not believe that the phone company would have hired me. And I had all the credentials. I had a college education. I had a tech degree. I had some experience, and I do not believe that. And I had people on the job who I was more than qualified than tell me, "Oh, well, you only here because of affirmative action." Those are the kind of arguments we used to have on the job. And I'm like, you're only here because you know Joe, or you know John, or you know Tony. You're not qualified. You're definitely more qualified than me. So I hear what you're saying, but I do believe that without the Civil Rights Bill, without the doors opening, without the opportunity being on the table, without them being forced to say, okay, you have to at least have this this percentage of it, I don't think that a lot of us would have the jobs that we have. If Jim Crow still existed, man, we probably would be okay because we had our own community. But think about it like this: there was a lot of poverty in the black community, especially down south. And when black folk finally, did come together, and it was mentioned before, when we did come together and start, doing their own thing, what happened? They came and destroyed it. So I don't know. I don't believe that we would be better off under Jim Crow. I just don't believe that.
I think you're missing my point, because I think you're looking at Jim Crow like, oh, we're gonna go back into Jim Crow. Because
I believe that's where they're trying to take us. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah, but the thing is this, even prior to, understand that the Civil Rights Bill was not implemented because they cared about us poor Black folk. The civil rights was these Black folks are thriving and their money is staying in their neighborhoods. We need their money for us to be able to thrive. So what we're going to do is we're going to propagate an agenda to say we're going to introduce this. Oh, we're going to take out, because Jim Crow is somewhat still, they're still dragging and hanging Black folks, being honest. I mean, it's not as prevalent because of the fact that we're protected by Jim Crow. More Black folks walking around here with guns. So the Klan ain't quick to go and stand in front of somebody's front yard and say, "Come out of the house." I can't say it because I won't get you in trouble. Come on out this, give me your son. They gonna get followed up by them bullets. That's the difference now. That's why we don't see the essence of the Black Power movement alone change the game. Because if we were still as timid as we were, well, not timid, but we were in the position that we were in where we didn't carry guns, we didn't think about protecting ourselves, we were a little bit more militant. If we weren't militant like that and we were still those people, it would still be Klan in the middle of our yard. Understand that. So because it's a different era and you're dealing with a different generation, it ain't the Jim Crow that's protecting us. It's the Black folks that's saying, "Come in my yard if you want to." Klan got to think twice. Because we are a little bit more different in our thinking patterns, because my generation never experienced Jim Crow. So my mindset is different than my parents and my grandparents. But with that being said, we walk around and we're scared. We're saying, well, we have access now because of affirmative action. We have access to come in and work because, again, that dollar is strong. But where is my seat in these decision-making roles?
Right.
That's what really counts. Me working at a desk being, and this is just,
worker bee.
Worker bee. I don't make decisions. I'm just,
right.
I'm adding gasoline to the fire to make it keep it going. But when will I see that all an entire C-suite, which is CIO, CEO, CFO, some Black faces in there? You may see a few pop-ups of a few Black people that are CEOs, but what really counts when we get into these corporate structures with this so-called affirmative action is having a seat at the table with the decision-making groups. Right now, we don't have that weight anymore. So that's why I'm like, affirmative action, if it goes away, guess what? Fine, because you still need my dollar. Jim Crow, try it, because guess what? You try that in Memphis. You got a Klan standing in somebody's yard. These brothers gonna come out.
They don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that. Even in certain
the Klan ran out of Memphis when they tried to have a rally. Last time they tried to march in Memphis, we marched them on up out of here.
Correct. So you're dealing with a different mindset. So I'm not really afraid of if they take these bills away, because truth be told, the foreigners get more because of the Civil Rights Bill than we do. So I ain't concerned. Take it. Do whatever you want to do with it. Try to implement Jim Crow, and you will see something that we do not want to see. You will see war in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
It will turn, it will flip quickly because they're not prepared. I read this book. I love it. I'm gonna stop right here.
Before you go further, Sister E, when I say Jim Crow, I wasn't speaking more on the violence part. I'm talking about economics. I'm talking about them freezing us out of jobs, them freezing us out of bank loans, them freezing us out of everything that they had their thumb on Black people under Jim Crow. It wasn't just the violence. So when I'm not worried about so much the violence. I mean, they'll still try. There'll be some that try, just like they just got ran out of Cincinnati. There'll be some that try it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm speaking more on the economic level. But
even with the economics realm, guess what? We thrived even then. We had our own, and it wasn't just, they used Black Wall Street because Black Wall Street was an example. There were tons of Black Wall Streets, and we became a problem because they said, wait, these Black people got their own economy, and it takes a Black Wall Street to funnel into a Memphis, and what happened was that we started building two different economies. You had their economy and we had our own economy, and they started paying attention like their economy is thriving. We didn't have projects during that time. Projects didn't really come into implementation to after the Civil Rights Bill and the introduction of crack.
And
Huh?
I'm sorry. I was going to say, to add to that, this month is the 40th anniversary of the MOVE bombing in Philly.
Yes.
You know, and they try to create more insular structure like within that. If I recall, I think Mumia was tied to a few of those leaders there. You know, because that happened 3 years after he was sentenced to life. You know what I'm saying? So we don't even have to go that far back in the annals of history. I mean, I was in 3rd grade when that happened. You know what I mean? So this very recent, so they could still like grave dig the same ways and the methodologies to try it. We just gotta be more insular. That's what should be teaching us what to do.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm gonna shut up after this. But see, I understand your point, J Mac. I'm not really concerned about Jim Crow because there's still levels of Jim Crow, but it's quiet now. It's called, let's make sure that we got 3 Black people in the room, and out of the 3, we probably gonna have 1 that might be in the decision-making room. But guess what? He's gonna be the only Black voice in the midst of 6 others in the sea of voices when you're dealing with decision making.
And we got him on the string.
And all that's going to tie into my final thoughts, of course. So we want to shift to Brother Gardis, and then we want to do our final thoughts, and we're going to go back around, starting with Brother Salam's final thoughts, and then back to Brother Gardis for final thoughts, and make the round robin back around to me, and I'll close us out. Go right ahead, Brother Gardis.
Okay. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
To Gary's point, yes, I can validate that. Yeah, there were weapons being left, in different Black neighborhoods to cause a lot of violence. But also, you was asking about the population, the Black population, and what a third party or different party would look like. As far as being a Black party. Well, going back to the example of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, half of them were white, and they were basically allied. They were basically the white allies who supported the civil rights movement during that time. But it was also, like I said, it was founded by Fannie Lou Hamer. It was a Black-led party. So yeah, obviously, to get that type of traction, you definitely gonna have to have different type of people in the party that can align with, with the movement and with some of the things that we fight for as Black folks. To Salam's point about security, and I talked about how do we protect ourselves and our own stuff. This doesn't necessarily. The question is very broad from my perspective, because it necessarily doesn't have to go to like military protection with guns and stuff like that. What I'm also talking about when I said how do we protect what we have, it's not just our economy, it's our minds, it's our spirits, it's a lot of things that have been compromised because of the fact that we let people in the spaces to make decisions for us. And this is the issue. The biggest issue of security is how do we protect our own minds? Because that's the thing. That's the key issue before we even get to protecting our community, militarily or something like that. We got to understand that there are decisions that we have to make, and we cannot let outsiders or even the white supremacists make decisions for us, because it won't be for our benefit. So when you talk about, say for instance, when you talk about a lot of Black companies who get bought out, by bigger white conglomerates, take for example BET. They got bought out by Viacom years ago. And why is that? Because for one, there was no sense of security, no sense of protection, no sense of
okay, we built this television empire, we're going to keep it the way it is. Same thing with record companies, Motown, stuff like that. Barry Gordy, I think he sold Motown for like what, $20 million, and I think they estimated a couple of years ago, and the Motown catalog is worth like over 100 million, something like that. So this is what I'm talking about, where we have to protect our creations, we have to protect our structures, we have to protect things in other ways. And you know, the philosophy, like for instance, the philosophy of the Black Panthers. You know, the Black Panthers during their heyday, they didn't let you touch a gun until you read several books, you understand the rules, you understand the laws, you understand all what the Black Panther Party represents.
And political education.
Political education. You was not allowed to touch a gun until you got full political education, because there's a responsibility behind, you know, having those arms. You just don't use it discriminately. That wasn't their thing. So when we arm ourselves, the first weapon we arm ourselves with is our minds, our souls, and our hearts. How much are we willing to protect that? And going to the conversation between Jay and Sister E, because I think there was a conversation about you know, being resegregated because of the fact that, you know, we did better under segregation. But here's the thing. The thing is that under segregation, white folks was still able to take away a lot of the resources that we shared amongst each other. And if I'm not mistaken, and Salam, correct me on this, it was Elijah Muhammad who talked about the difference between separation and segregation.
Yes.
And, you know, he said that segregation is when the white man separates you forcefully, but also still controls your resources, where separation, you basically separate from the white man, but you still have your own resources and you build your own stuff and you use it. So I definitely agree with that. You know, I think there has to be a point of separation because of the fact that integration didn't work out for us. And I wouldn't say integration itself was not the problem. The problem is that we didn't integrate with our own stuff.
Right.
We had to give up that stuff in order to integrate. Now, if we were allowed to bring our businesses and stuff like that into an integrated society, it probably would have been different. I may be wrong, but I think it would have been different. But the way we integrated, to me, was the issue. And also, too, and I agree with you, Sister E, about DEI and affirmative action only benefiting you know, white women in general. However, here's the thing: when Trump and his Republican buddies and Elon Musk is talking about getting rid of DEI, it's basically just code words to say you can fire your black workers. That's all that means. You can fire your black workers, because majority of the government jobs, you know, are held by, you know, well, I wouldn't say majority of the government jobs, but when you talk about employment, people who are employed in the black community, most of the jobs that black people have are government sector jobs.
Yes.
So the thing is that he's giving these departments carte blanche to fire all their black workers. Now, here's the thing that has to happen.
Exactly my point.
Yeah, and here's the thing that has to happen, because if people are bold enough to do that, because Trump is bold enough to write, you know, to write executive orders that wholly go against the Constitution. You know, like the whole trying to get rid of natural citizenship. Like you can't executive order that. That's a constitutional right.
Yeah, he
But
can't do that. That's constitutional, right? But that don't mean he won't try, right? Exactly.
oh yeah, he's gonna try several times. But here's the thing. So understand that the Civil Rights Act is still on the books. He hasn't got rid of that yet, and I don't think he could get rid of that now because in order to repeal the law, correct me if I'm wrong, you got to get a majority of Congress, and I believe that's 75%, which he doesn't have, that influence to repeal that law. But if they start firing black workers, the wars have to go to the courts now, because I see lawsuits all over the place of labor discrimination and such and such. So if that's going to be, like, the battle has to be fought on several fronts, and I think a war in the courts have to be there in order to stop this, because you see the courts are already rolling back a lot of Trump's executive orders.
But he's ignoring the courts, though.
Well, he can ignore the courts all he wants to, but the courts are the courts, and so they have the legal right to repeal or take back whatever he whatever he says. Now, the Supreme Court is basically where the issue may lie, because there might be some
that's
issues.
exactly where the problem is going to be. Brother God is here. Just real quick. So it's a piecemeal dismantling. Of course, the Congress never going to pass a law to contradict the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. But what the Supreme Court can do is strike down a piece at a time. They've been working on the Voting Rights Act on the Supreme Court since the 1990s. Striking down certain provisions of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, saying we don't need that anymore. Society's change, this, that, and the third. So, but not to just completely cut you off, I just want to interject that, and I want to give it back to you to wrap it up before we go to Brother Salam.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know what? One thing about that, to the public, it's not a law that we have a right to vote. It's an act that keeps getting reinstituted. So it's not law that we can vote. It's just an act. So it has to be reapproved continuously over and over again after it meets its threshold over some years.
Yeah, that's true. But, basically, to kind of just wrap it up, the courts are going to be very busy during this time. And I think we should take advantage, because here's the thing that's interesting. And I think I read this I believe it was the Wall Street Journal. There was an article talking about federal judge appointments, and they were comparing the last three presidents, Trump, Biden, and Obama. And there was, the numbers kind of like evened out, where Biden, Obama, and Trump kind of like all appointed the same number of judges in the federal courts. We often try to, too much focus on the Supreme Court. We often ignore the federal courts, which is very important. But they were all roughly like around 240 and 250 appointments. However, here's where the discrepancy lies between the three presidents. If I can remember in the article, Biden and Obama appointed, I think, roughly about 110 appellate court judges, where Trump only appointed 50. So even if the federal courts, may side with a Trump, they still have the appellate courts that still weigh heavily towards the Democrats, because of the fact that there are more appellate court judges that are leaning more towards Democrats than Republicans. So that may be a stoppage of it going to the Supreme Court, because obviously, sometimes the Supreme Court will have to ask if the appellate court had ruled on this. But it's something that could keep it at bay for a little bit. But obviously, if we can keep it at bay, at least for now, we could start organizing and working together to try to find some solutions to
stop this madness. If it, unfortunately, if it comes to a head. So I'll yield the floor.
Well
Thanks so
said.
much, brother. Thanks so
Well,
much, brother Gardis. And now we've reached the end. It's been great, and we're gonna have to really do this more often because this is an excellent panel, and you've all done so well in presenting your thoughts. And I love it how we can do pushback against different viewpoints that have been shared, and it's still mutual respect. Because look, we all on the same team, and we're looking for the same goal. And we know that the enemy's agenda is to divide and conquer. But I tell you what, I love my brothers and sisters so much. There's nothing that you can say to me to get me to go against my brother and my sister. Nothing at all. My great grandmama used to say it like this: don't be disagreeing in front of them white folks. And what she meant by that is we have to stick together because the agent of the enemy is trying to divide us against each other. Even if we have philosophical differences, they try to divide Malcolm X against Martin Luther King. They try to set them against each other. Yeah. And so I want to open up here now the opportunity for closing remarks. I want us to start at Brother Salam. We're going to try to keep it to about 3 minutes. Give some closing remarks, Brother Salam, and we're going to go back to Brother Gardis for closing remarks, then J Mac, Sister E, and Gary. And of course, I will close us out with my closing remarks. Go right here, Brother Salam.
Yes, sir. I know I may have wrote something or alluded to it in the comments prior to me coming on, but the disappointment of the Congressional Black Caucus that they didn't have Al Green's back.
I caught that, Black Carcass. Love it. I caught that, brother. I just want to say.
Yes, sir.
It's
I mean,
good.
that's a valley of dry bones right there in the congressional body. You know what I mean? So we have, it's interesting. The brother's name is Al Green. And Al Green, what was the song they played on Dead Presidents when they was pulling up on Chris Tucker? I'm so tired of being alone.
Beautiful.
And this brother
So tired
was
of being
alone.
alone. In that powerful imagery that you point out right there, Brother Salam.
Well, see that our brother was standing by himself. We weren't on code politically or culturally. We sitting there holding signs. It was like really like infantile. Like you run a romper room or something, and that's what they were reduced to doing. Second thing, just throwing out there, because many of us do move about in our everyday lives in mixed company, believe it or not. And one thing I noticed, and I wasn't afraid to call it out when I went live on my feed before, is I noticed after the Zelensky-Trump, situation, even among our own people, our own brothers and sisters, I started seeing pictures of, where I'm going. I stand with Ukraine, and I wish I had the time for screen sharing and all that kind of stuff. But it's like how soon you forget people. Now, these are the same people that had swastikas and SS Thunderbolts on their helmets and insignias on their uniform. This is like, here's what they think about you, as they once said. You know what I mean? So, like, our knowledge of self, to Brother Gardis's point, that protecting our mind, being the gatekeeper, and our frontal cortex, and protecting what goes in it. Our knowledge of self, our love of self, our knowledge of friend and ally, or as I heard you say before, Brother Charles, accomplice, not just an ally, right? Because if folks who claiming to be our allies, but they not catching the strays, they not getting those stones that they're intended for
accomplices.
How big of a rider are they for you? They should be getting. They should be catching strays and getting fades just like, and catching bodies just like we catching bodies. Like for every they'll be quick to throw up Schwerner, and Goodman, and Liuzzo, but those are just 3 people. A whole what brother Martin saying that he said is not the words of my enemies, it's the silence of my friends.
Oh, come on here.
So what we talking about here? I mean, so if you're riding with us, go ahead and ride with us. But we're prepared to stand alone like the C and B and make like the CNB and say we all we got. We prepared to do that. But we just got to take steps and wish to do it. But our understanding and being on code with what's what. Every time I see a brother, where I live at, we walk past, we greet each other. I let them know, hey, I'm in the scene. I'm on the scene with you. We out here because all we have is each other, man. I'll leave it at that because I want to be.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you brought that out. We're going right to you, Brother Gardis, for your 3-minute closing. I love how you brought it out about how we were not on code with the brother Al Green, who was removed from the chamber. And I recall a president by the name of Barack Obama was giving his State of the Union. And I recall some white congressman from I can't remember
South
where
Carolina.
he was from talking
He's
about
like, you lie.
You lie. And I mean, he started acting a fool, and nobody removed him from the chamber. He stayed in there all of the rest of the way. So
Al Green shook his stick, and yet he got hit with censorship.
Come on here. here. So we see what's happening. Come on, Brother Gardis.
Go ahead, Gardis.
Yeah, thanks for allowing me to come on your platform and conversate with very, very intelligent panel here. I really enjoy this conversation, even though this is stuff that we have to do where we hash out certain ideas, certain ideologies, certain differences, because we have to confront these contradictions that we have amongst each other. But also too, we also have to do it respectfully, but we also have to understand everybody's methodology behind their thought patterns and the way they think and what they believe. Because, the one problem that we have is this polarizing of ideas. Like, you gotta believe exactly what I believe, or else, you the ops.
Or you vote for Trump, or you fed.
Yeah, you vote, just because I criticize Kamala Harris, now I'm a Trump supporter. No,
bingo, right?
That's not it. I got lots of criticisms for Kamala Harris, but I will never pull a lever for Trump. Never. Even if I was institutionalized, I will never vote for that guy.
Come on here.
But just because I give the Democrats smoke as well doesn't mean I'm a Republican. So we have to have those nuanced conversations that we have, because there's criticisms all over the place that we have to have, including ourselves, because we have to be open to new ideas. We have to be open to certain things that not a lot of people are talking about, because if not a lot of people are talking about it, 9 times out of 10, it's being suppressed. And because it's being suppressed, that means that there's that controlling your minds again, because they ain't putting it on social media or mainstream media or whatever. So when your famous rapper or ball player ain't talking about it, then it's irrelevant.
Right.
So or your favorite, activist or politician, then it's irrelevant. So I really appreciate these conversations, people, and looking forward to having another one of these again. Thanks.
Yes,
indeed, Brother Gardis, and I want to start doing these on a regular basis. Brother J Mac brought it to my attention, and spread the word around, and so we want to have these kind of forums on a regular basis, just to address where we are and where we're going. And I think that could be a pretty popular thing for people to tune into. Brother J Mac, go right ahead with your 3-minute closing statement.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick on Sister E. Don't act like you don't know what romper room is.
Don't do that. I'm still in my 40s. Don't do that.
Listen, some of us pushing 50, some of us slightly past 50. It's a reference that a lot of these folks would not get.
I'm in the middle of my 50s. So, hey, it's great. This has been great, and we definitely need to do it again. There's been some great points brought out. I'm glad Sister E came. I'm glad Gardis came. My brother Gary and Salam jumped on late, but he got in here. And to Gardis's point, Gardis, if I was having a conversation with you, and you were holding the Democrats accountable, I would have a problem with it all, because I can hear in your presentation that you are not advocating for Donald Trump or the MAGA movement. You know what I'm saying? You're not advocating for the MAGA movement. And so I think that's a difference. I can tell when people.
I caught that too.
Yeah, catch that. I can tell when people are pushing a narrative. You know what I'm saying? And they're trying, and they got an underlying narrative that they're trying to push. And these people rarely ever, matter of fact, they never criticize the other side. You know what I'm saying? So we can tell, like, we've been on Sister E's live, and she'll criticize both sides. These things I know. You know what I'm saying? So I can say that, yeah, definitely the Tea Party is the maggot movement is the original Tea Party. That is definitely true. To another point made, MTG cut up in the State of Union address with President Biden, and nothing happened to her either. She you know, she didn't get kicked out. She
Great point.
Yeah. So, and she's a big clown. So, and Brother Charles, we kind of ended up on the same video. There's this animal. I ain't gonna say it because we might get in trouble. But let's just say this Sambo that's doing a parody on our sister Jasmine Crockett, and
Terrence Williams.
I can't stand those
dressing in drag.
Yeah, I can't stand those kind of Negroes. I mean, why? One of the few voices that are willing to advocate for the people, speak up. She advocates for her district. She gives her district. She self-reports to her district what she's doing. You know what I'm saying? And what she's accomplishing, what bills she's pushing. So why anybody would come out, a black person would come out here and try to tear her down. But it just, to me, it just seems like the other side, the white conservatives can't come at her, so they go find, a Sambo that'll do the dirty work.
That's right.
Every time.
Yeah.
They have to find a ventriloquist
willing
dummy.
accomplice.
A ventriloquist dummy for white supremacists, so they can throw their voice through their dummy. But I didn't quickly want to let MTG and Sister Jasmine Crockett get mentioned without bringing out that bad built, bleach, blonde, butch body.
And you know what was funny?
Ventriloquist dummy.
Who was the
Hambone? Have you heard?
Right. Who was the chairman? Whoever that guy was, the chairman, the Republican. He didn't even catch that. He had no clue. He was like, "Huh? What?"
That was great.
And oh boy, I forgot his name. Jamie Raskin was over there cracking up. He was like, "Yeah, you missed that one." but I'm saying all that to say that there was, Kamala didn't. It wasn't fair what Salam said. Joe Biden was supposed to be a one-term president. He promised it. He got a taste of that power, and he didn't need to change his mind.
He didn't give it up, so he said
the white patriarchy took over.
Yeah.
The Dems had 100 days to get ready for an election. It wasn't fair. But you also had, in my opinion, you had some black influencers that were discouraging black people from voting for her, voting at all, or voting for her, or voting for the opposition. And I'm just not going to forget who those people are. All the grifting they were doing. I'm not letting them off the. I'm not going to mention them today. I'm going to bring them up on the next show. I'm not going to forget that. And they're quiet as a mouse now. Trump is cutting up, and doing everything he's doing to, to policies that affect black people. They're quiet. You don't hear nothing from them. You don't hear nothing from Dearborn, Michigan. The Muslims and the Arabs that wanted to punish Kamala. Now look at Palestine is about to get annexed and turned into a some kind of resort. And they they're gonna have a big
beachfront property.
Yeah, gold statue of Donald Trump. Y'all know the gold trophy, the gold statue thing goes back to the Exodus. So I ain't gonna tie that in right now. But I'm saying all that to say a lot of people that were very noisy during the campaign against Kamala are quiet as a mouse now. Even Black MAGA. I know some of them are embarrassed, but no, there's a lot of them that are quiet, and I land on that.
Exactly right, brother. Sister E, come on.
All right, so first and foremost, if y'all ever listen to my ex-brother-in-law, y'all would scream because he's a staunch Republican. His name is Vince Ellison. So
oh wow,
go follow him. He is, but sometimes you got to hear some of the stuff that he's saying to say it makes some sense. I was not a fan. I'm gonna just say that I was not a fan of Kamala. And I'm not afraid to say that I was not a fan of Kamala. I would have rather been Cornel West. Because we got to be honest in the room. Last term was no better. Term was no better. We can't play like and build this fantasy world that the Democrats was in office and it was going well. It was a nightmare then. We start seeing inflation. We start seeing the mass exodus of these jobs, and people were losing their jobs. The people were being laid off left and right. I was in LinkedIn and watching people say, I've lost my job. Even though Trump is getting ready to annex Palestine, but during Biden's watch, guess what? It was hundreds of thousands of children being bombed in Gaza by his ally, and he did not address it. And nobody addressed it, nor did anybody really do anything. What they did was kept giving this man bombs. So Trump is even though Trump is, and I'm not an advocate of Trump as well, but I look at both sides of the aisle and say what makes sense. I try not to be, because I was raised Democrat, grew up Democrat my whole life, and when I got older, I started noticing things within the Democratic Party that I was like, wait a minute, hold on, this doesn't make sense. But we can't play like because the thing is, some people are afraid of Kamala because it was going to be a continuance of the Biden administration.
Right.
We were getting ready to go to war, y'all, being honest. And we're still going to war, being honest. I really think we're getting ready to go to war. Yep. But we can't sit here and make it seem like Biden did everything correct when he didn't. He didn't. We got to be honest and be honest in the room. And people were afraid that Kamala was going to finish off whatever was going to happen. Inflation happened, and it was ridiculous in the past 4 years. But inflation is not something that we can even just blame Biden for. We can just blame Trump for. It goes all the way back, decades back, when the cost of living was constantly skyrocketing, and unemployment was increasing as well during the Reagan era. So these things were going to happen anyway. I think this is just the end result of decades of mismanagement of money within the government and within these corporations. But with that being said, and J Max said, I don't believe Kamala would have continued. I don't know that. We don't know what Kamala would have done. Yeah. We don't know. I won't operate in a place where in the unknown to say that she wouldn't do it. We just know that it happened during his time, and we watched those children over there in Palestine and those innocent people. Netanyahu was not following house rules. He was going totally against the Geneva Convention, and Biden wasn't doing anything to help. So people was like, wait a minute, not to mention the amount of money that was coming out of this country, floodgating into Ukraine, to Ukraine's war. Now, keep in mind, I agree with Salam. People fall asleep on the fact that Ukraine don't like black folks over there.
Right.
And so when Trump went off on the Ukrainian prime minister, I was good with it. I was laughing because we got to realize that they don't like.
Oh, I was laughing too.
Yeah, I was like,
I had my popcorn and everything.
It's gonna be good television. It's gonna be good television.
But so what people don't realize is Zelensky brought the cameras in. He wanted to televise it. That was Zelensky's decision. But yet it's still I don't want us to paint a picture as if the Democratic Party didn't have a hand in the mess that we're in now, because they had a hand in it. And they got to be held 100% accountable for the money that was going out of here to Ukraine, the money that was going out of here for Israel, the money that was going out of here for all these countries for foreign
Venezuelans coming into the hood.
Yes, they opened the floodgates. I'm in New York, y'all, and I saw how the migrants was pretty much taking over the streets. I'm not saying not
eating cats and dogs.
No, they weren't eating cats and dogs.
Were they eating the cats? They're eating the dogs.
But with that being said, I'm not knocking people coming in. This is how this country was built, off of immigrants coming in and bringing something to the table. But the gates opened the way they did it. It was out of order. That was during the time of the Trump, the Biden and Kamala. Kamala never wanted to address those things, and if she addressed it, it was half addressed. And I'm like, can you please address this to the people? Because I don't think she had an idea or a plan what she wanted to do. So with that being said, we can't negate that Kamala was a fear factor, because we were already in a financial chokehold. People were unable to buy groceries. This wasn't during Trump's era. It was during Biden's era. Folks weren't able to buy groceries. But again, it goes further back that multiple presidents made bad decisions that's ultimately led to this situation.
Yeah,
so
fuel prices went up under Biden. Skyrocketed under Biden. Yeah.
So I'm not gonna make it seem as if voting, if someone says they didn't vote for Kamala, and let's say they did vote for Trump, so be it. Ask the person why. Again, coming up around politicians, like I said, my ex-husband's brother has a YouTube. It's Vince Ellison show, and he is a staunch Black Republican. But sometimes I'll hear something he says, and I'll say, that makes a lot of sense. And instead of assuming that they are, Samboing and cooning, sometimes they see some things that we don't see. And this is why everybody in the room has a point to make that makes a lot of sense, that we need to take into account. Because on one end, the Democrats are extreme. On the other end, Republicans are just overly conservative. Everybody has problems in the room, but it's a matter of addressing it, not hiding one party to say, well, we would have voted for Kamala. I was petrified of Kamala. Petrified.
Right. Yeah. And I love how you said, even when you were making the comments about being critical of Israel and what Netanyahu was doing to the Palestinians, the queen of the coons, Sister Candace Owens. I'm just, and my ops are probably going to screen record this because I'm about to say something cool about Candace Owens. But even the queen of the coons, when she started criticizing what Israel was doing, the right wing turned on her.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
And they just turned on her, and that has still happened even to this day, because she criticized. Okay, well, I don't want to get my YouTube channel struck, but you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna take a nod from the minister. I don't care if they strike my YouTube channel or not. Them folks that you ain't supposed to criticize.
Right.
She criticized them, and the right wing turned on her. I want to hit Brother Gary for his 3-minute closing, and then I'm gonna wrap us up.
Hold on, you're on mute, brother. You put the glasses on, so I want to catch every word.
Yeah. I got
it. You put the glasses on, you word, brother. I want to hear every word.
Yeah, no. Thank you all for allowing me to be a part of what you're doing. I found it to be very productive. But my last thoughts are, you just got to try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. I also encourage people to research conflicting ideas that you have. I do not listen to rhetoric that only goes along with my ideals. I want to hear both sides of the story. And then I'm going to take it another step further. Then I'm going to go directly to the resource. I'm going to go to Project 2025's website and read what's in it versus me listening to what someone on TikTok said about it.
Interpret it, right.
I prefer to go to the horse's mouth. That's how I make my decisions. Just because someone is president, got money, got power, does not mean that they're all knowing and that they're right about everything they're saying. Success doesn't mean that you're always correct in what you say and your opinion is the right thing. You cannot align someone's success with their common sense or their values. We have seen these folks, based on how they got to where they've gotten to, amass wealth, and there's a lot of immoral things associated with them. Lastly, my final point, and well, y'all be dropping so many bombs, it's hard to keep up with everything that you want to say. Well, there's two things. I'm fortunate enough to work in a very diverse career path. There's a lot of white folks and people from other cultures that do not agree with everything that's going on. There's some people that have compassion for the unfairness that we may experience. Like Brother Salam was saying, though, when you're quiet, though, you don't speak up and say nothing, you're kind of an accomplice.
Talk about
Yeah, so we have to, whether we like it or not, whether we're here segregated or integrated, whatever, we have to coexist.
Yes,
We have to coexist, and we have to instill values in our families and things of that nature, and hope that our children do better than what we did.
Yes.
And the last thing is, Sister E inspired this thought, and J Mac, Jim Crow or unfairness and all that stuff still exists. There's an evolution. Yeah, we might be able to get better jobs than we could have gotten in comparison to our grandparents. But like what Sister E is saying, there's still ceilings. I work at a place where I got some pretty high up level management of blacks, but I've worked some other places that, I don't know what you call the head of the janitorial department is, but that's where you was gonna stop. Okay. Yeah, but I love you all and I appreciate you. And I look forward to joining you all again if you have me.
Yeah, listen, we're gonna have you again, Brother Garrett. Like I said, we're gonna do this again. One of my favorite, I have several favorite quotations from the minister, but one of my favorites that the minister dealt with was he talked about us going to a shopping mall of democracy.
Yes.
And I want his words to be my final words as I share what the minister said, State of the Black Union 2005.
We are like mannequins in the shopping mall of democracy. When you go to the shopping mall, you see the mannequin. The mannequin is dressed in what you would like to buy. The mannequin can't walk. The mannequin can't walk. We got black people in power, but they don't have powers. We got black money. We have black people with money.
Yes, sir.
Think are giants, but in the company of their white counterparts, they're midgets. Now,
Yes, sir.
want to get where we want to go. We can't focus on the house that has rejected us and our fathers for 400 years. We have to now focus on ourselves. Now follow this, and I'm out of here.
All right. I'm following you. I'm following you. Come on.
Follow this.
And that was, I can't say it any better than that. All of that's relative, man. We think they got money, but when you put them up against their counterparts, they are midgets.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's where I want to leave it right there. So I'm glad for everybody who was able to come out and join us today for this Brother Charles Johnson YouTube special, Talking Politics. We had a wonderful panel. Thank you to Sister E of course, Sister E knows me from these clubhouse streets and Ultimate Debate League and Sidnetta and all these spaces where she and I have crossed paths. Brother J Mac, my good friend, Brother Salam. And I knew you three. I didn't know Brother Gardis and Brother Gary, aside from my messenger chat, but it's a blessing
Chicago
to
people right
see
here.
you in person, and they're Chicago people.
Yes, indeed.
So there you go. So look, we have really made a great connection here, and we've had a great conversation. And I guess somebody pray for Brother Salam. Would you pray for us as we adjourn?
Yes, indeed. Part of me is just that it's a month of Ramadan. I'll say the English version of the first surah of the Quran, if you all don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praises are due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee alone do we serve, and thine aid do we seek. O Allah, guide us all on the straight path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favors, not the path of those upon whom your wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray after hearing thy teachings. Amen.
I mean.
All right. And we're going to get together soon, okay?
I mean.
I like the way that sound. I mean. Okay, so we'll catch up with everybody later. Thank y'all for tuning in. And if you missed it, catch the replay, and we'll see y'all later.
Yes,
All right,
indeed.
peace and
Pleasure
blessings.
meeting you, Sister
Peace and
E.
blessings.
And
Nice
brothers
meeting
Gary,
you.
Brother Gardner, great to see you guys as well.
All right.
All right, Brother Charles, Brother Jay, you too.
Grace and peace.
Yes, sir.